The town of Farmington. Respecting history, planning the future.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the Farmington Town Council meeting and ask you to join us for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to ask if there's any public comment, and if you'd like to, if you have any public comment, please come to the podium. You have 5 minutes, and please state your name and address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Hudfegger. Excuse me. I live at 4 Deepwood Road. I'm a parent with children in the school system here to support the Board of Education's capital plan. Based on the needs of the facilities and the knowledge we all have from the Friars report, these funds are certainly necessary to provide safe and operational facilities for the students of Farmington. Delaying capital improvements and maintenance projects will only compound future costs. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. We will move on then to the public hearing. Paula?
A public hearing will be held on Tuesday, February 26, 2019, at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers on the Town Manager's proposed 7-year capital improvement plan. Dated Farmington, Connecticut, this 11th day of February 2019. Kathleen A. Egan, Town Manager.
Thank you. We'll hear from the town manager and then the superintendent of schools.
Good evening. Tonight I will be presenting the 1920-25-26 Capital Improvement Program. The Capital Improvement Plan, CIP, is a planning document by which the town of Farmington plans for improvements it will undertake over the next 7 years. In order for a project to qualify as a capital improvement, the cost of the item or project should be at least $25,000, and the improvement should have a useful life of at least 7 years. Equipment or projects which cost less than $25,000 or which have a useful life of less than 7 years do not qualify as a capital improvement and should be included as an expense in the operating budget. Projects in the CIP may be funded from a variety of sources: appropriations, bonding, a state or federal grant, or another source of funds. Highlights of the town of Farmington's capital improvement policy are as follows. The town will strive to maintain a high reliance on pay-as-you-go financing for its capital improvements. The town's objective will be to contribute to the capital improvement plan at least 2.5% of the annual general fund revenues allocated to the operating budget. The capital improvement plan calls for the expenditure of $65,487,000 over the next 7 years. Of this amount, $39,267,000 is proposed to be funded through appropriations from the general fund. Bonding authorizations totaling $25,520,000 and $700,000 in other funds are also proposed. Fiscal year 1920 of the capital improvement plan calls for the expenditure of $9,703,000. Of this amount, $3,833,000 is proposed to be funded through the appropriations from the general fund, and $5,170,000 is proposed to be funded through bonding. $700,000 is proposed to be funded through other funds. The town's capital improvement policy and the town's strategic plan were the policy guidelines that were at the forefront when formulating the CIP, while focusing the appropriations into 2 main funding themes. These themes are equipment, infrastructure, maintenance improvements, and technology and communication initiatives. Equipment, infrastructure, maintenance improvement summary. Each year, the capital budget, we strive to make steady progress in this area. There is a continuous need to maintain the town's equipment and infrastructure, and these needs touch all departments. Each department has equipment replacement plans that are funded in the CIP. The plan supports replacement of equipment throughout town. This critical equipment keeps our volunteer firefighters safe when responding to calls for service. It allows our roads to be properly maintained by the highway and ground staff. It also keeps our school grounds, parks, and golf course looking clean and ready for play during the warm weather months. Equipment replacement ensures the town's ability to offer high-quality services to our residents and businesses. Over the last several years, the town has been able to fund many of our equipment needs. This year, we continue to focus much of our capital funding in this area. The capital improvement plan proposes to fund equipment purchases for the replacement of turnout gear for the fire department, as well as a dump truck, a road maintenance truck, a sprayer, and a sprayer for the public works department. The plan also funds upgrades to the irrigation systems throughout town and as well as to the golf course. Vehicle replacements are included in this proposed capital improvement plan for numerous departments, including the engineering department, the highway and grounds department, the police department, as well as fleet vehicles and a fire marshal vehicle out of the town manager's account. The proposed capital improvement plan continues to fund renovations and or improvements to town-owned buildings or properties, including the Staples House, the Stone House, the Youth Center, Town Hall, Farmington Center, in addition to the Unionville Museum to add a bathroom. Funds are also included for the town's required contribution for the STP Urban Grant Road Improvement Projects on New Britain Avenue. Technology and communication summary. In the 21st century, the town's technology infrastructure must be maintained. It must keep up with the rapidly changing world of technology as well as the expectations of residents and businesses. Townwide technology improvements as well as improvements specific to the police department and town hall are proposed in this capital plan. The capital improvement plan will provide funds to the police department for the continuation of replacing and improving radio site transmitters at various locations, including West Farms Mall and the Burlington Fire Department for the Lake Garda area. In addition, funds provide for the replacement of the current server platform and upgrades for software licenses at both the police department and town hall. Technology is constantly evolving, and the proposed capital improvement plan will also provide routine technology improvements to town hall, allowing all departments to deliver public goods and services effectively and efficiently. Specifically, these funds will allow for the acquisition of specialized software to better manage human resources. Banking. Each year, the town funds capital accounts that are used as banking accounts. These accounts save all or a portion of the funds to plan for future infrastructure projects. In essence, the town is saving money to be able to pay cash for larger, costly projects. Examples of banking accounts in the proposed capital improvement plan include rails to trails, school parking lot paving and upgrades, Farmington Center improvements, and technology improvements. I will now summarize the first year of bonding proposed for an April budget referendum. The first year of the capital plan proposes bonding of $5,170,000. $1,670,000 to the Board of Education for the East Farms office relocation, $2 million to the engineering department for road reconstruction, and $1,500,000 for one fire apparatus, the replacement of Ladder 1 at Farmington Fire Station. I will now summarize the department's request for the first year of the capital improvement plan. Board of Education. I'm recommending $1,967,000 for Board of Education projects. The Board of Education will be addressing these projects in detail after this presentation. I'm recommending $375,000 in the engineering department for bridge repairs, the town's portion of STP Urban New Britain Avenue Road project, vehicle replacements, rails to trails, funds related to environmental compliance throughout town, and school parking lot paving. I'm recommending $328,000 in the highway department. That includes improvements to parks and athletic fields and various equipment replacements. I'm recommending $100,000 to the planning department for Farmington Center improvements. I'm recommending $45,000 in the fire department, which includes replacement of turnout gear. I'm recommending $278,000 for the police department. This includes a supervisor's SUV and technology and communication improvements. I'm recommending $495,000 in the town manager's office. This includes significant technology and town hall improvements. It also includes replacement of a fire marshal's vehicle and 2 fleet vehicles, and the town's portion of a joint project with the Unionville Museum for the construction of a bathroom. I'm recommending $150,000 in community and recreation to continue renovations on the exterior and interior of the Stone House, to paint the exterior of Staples House, and to hire an architect to complete a study for renovations at the youth center. I'm recommending $95,000 at Westwood's Golf Course. That includes equipment replacement and irrigation improvements. As you may know, the town is currently seeking options for acquiring the former Parsons property from the state of Connecticut. I've included in the proposed capital budget an appropriation from general fund balance in the amount of $700,000 for this acquisition. The fund balance has grown significantly over the past few years, and the proposed appropriation of $700,000 would leave the fund balance at $13.7 million, or 12.9% of fiscal year 18-19 operating budget. The proposed general fund appropriation to support the capital improvements is $3,833,000, which is a 3.41% of projected annual general fund revenues allocated to the operating budget. Based on the town's capital improvement policy, the town's objective is to contribute at least 2.5% of the annual general fund revenues allocated to the operating budget. The cost of maintaining the town's infrastructure through the CIP is a necessary expense that has to be recognized. The needs for funds to maintain the town's property, buildings, and equipment is often greater than the willingness of the town to appropriate funds to meet those needs. However, the cost of not maintaining the town's property, buildings, and equipment will have a significant long-term impact. It may be tempting to defer a cost today to save money. However, the cost of deferred maintenance and repairs does not disappear. It accumulates and will likely increase in the future. I look forward to working with the town council tonight as we review my proposed capital improvement plan. This 7-year plan adequately reflects the needs of the town and the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd invite the Board of Ed to come up.
Good evening, everyone. The Board of Education approved 2019-2020 capital improvement budget was approved on January 14th, 2019. This presentation has been updated since that time to reflect the town manager's recommended 2019-2020 capital improvement budget. The capital improvement document includes our 7-year capital plan, and this document has been provided to you in the agenda packet. The 7-year plan is considered a living document that changes as projects are accelerated, as we did last year with large bonding items in K-12 roofs and K-8 security projects, or if projects are postponed in the annual budget process or grant funding becomes available. This presentation will focus on the 2019-2020 capital improvement budget request after the town manager's review. It's important to note that the 2017-18 K-8 facility review reports provide us with a 20-year plan for capital improvements at the K-8 level, and this allows us to make adjustments on an ongoing basis. We are well positioned in Farmington to plan for both long-term and short-term facility and infrastructure needs because we now have a comprehensive plan for our K-8 facilities. We also have a recently approved FHS statement of need that also provides clarity in the facility needs at our high school. Here are the overall categories that we utilize to create our 7-year capital plan. Although the current capital 7-year plan does not include high school facility improvement recommendations, we have included our FHS statement of need, as the needs outlined in this document are urgent needs, and we know Town Council continues to focus on next steps to address these needs. Here is a view of the board-approved 2019-2020 capital improvement budget for $2,802,000. These projects were approved on January 14th, 2019 by the Board of Education, and on the next slide you will see an updated capital improvement budget request after the town manager's review and recommendation. This slide shows the changes made to the Board of Education approved 2019-2020 capital improvement budget totaling $3,637,000. And I'll go through each one of the projects. The next few slides provide the FHS statement of need that was approved by the Board of Education on January 28th, 2019. The statement of need slides provides an overview of the facility review conducted by Tecton, as well as other reviews and studies like the NEASC report, OCR report, and other external and internal studies and reports that outline the needs of our high school facility. Broadly, ADA, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, code compliance, inadequate building envelope, roof issues, and a lack of energy efficiency are outlined within the statement of need. In addition, undersized areas like cafeteria, auditorium, library, lack of classroom space to support current programming, and an accreditation warning on one standard of our accreditation report are also highlighted. A sprawling building is often cited as a root cause for several issues outlined in the statement of need. This is the motion that was passed along with the statement of need for FHS on January 28th, 2019 by the Board of Education, and we thank the Town Council for your support in addressing the comprehensive needs of our FHS facility. The first category is technology for $500,000. You can see the specific technology items listed here for a request of $500,000. Matt Ross is here to answer any questions. And Matt, do you want to just come up and give a quick overview?
So for this year's proposal, what we have is a continuation of multi-year projects, which include rewiring the data networks at our elementary schools. This year, we're looking at Noah Wallace Union School. We've done East Farms and West District in previous years. We also have a continuation of classroom upgrades, again this year focused at Irving Robbins in the high school. And the other key item to notice is Servers Core, which is line 2, and that is the 4th year of a collaboration project. This is one of those banking accounts where we're putting money in each year, building up to a larger amount for anticipated upgrades, replacements, and repairs. Again, that's a joint project with the town. There's also matching funds on their side as well. Other upgrades that we're seeing, art and music lab at FHS. Again, that equipment is 7 years this summer. And we will be repurposing that equipment down to other classrooms at the high school, but the needs to support the curriculum are there to replace that equipment.
Security, $275,000. We are fortunate in Farmington to have a strong partnership with the Farmington Police Department, working with Chief Melanson on continuous improvement in safety and security. Security improvements totaling $275,000 include upgraded cameras K-12 and installation of additional bollards to provide protection for school buildings and individuals, and upgraded public address systems K-12. All of these items are recommendations of our security reviews that are conducted by the Farmington Police Department. The upgraded cameras reflect an enhancement in safety and security and a savings in our operating budget going forward each year. East Farms Elementary School office relocation, security, ADA, and media center upgrades. The budget request is $1,670,000 without potential reimbursement calculated into the total. The total project is a cost of $1,769,270. And as you may remember, there were funds in the 2018-19 bonding question for the East Farm Security Vestibule totaling $93,750. And that has offset the total cost that we are putting forward in this capital budget. Rusty Malik, our architect, is here to provide a quick overview of this project.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Rusty Malik with Quisenberry Arcari Malik. We're a Farmington firm, and we're always grateful to be working in town because it makes the commute really short. So, starting with these farms, you're looking at a site plan of the building. Bird's eyes to the left of the site, and then you're looking at on the north wolf pit. One of the interesting things with this building is as you approach the site, you really don't know where to turn to get to the main entrance because the main entrance is not defined. So one of the challenges is always which way do you turn, especially if you're new to the space. But it's quite, for our purposes, there's the main entrance, and it just gives you an overview of the building and the site and the parking in this particular location. Our approach to this project is one to address really four spaces. One, the main entrance, the vestibule, from a security aspect. Two, to look at the main office, the relocation of the main office, looking at the art space and then finally also the media center. But this is an existing facility plan that you're looking at right now. One comes in, I'm going to point right here, you come in, you go to the right if you are in a wheelchair, because for accessibility purposes, or you come to the left if you up the stairs to get into the main entrance. Art is immediately to your left, so when you come in the main hallway, your art is over here. You come down the hallway, there's the main office right there, some of the support office spaces, and then the media center is right here. On the north side of the media center is a courtyard. So those are the spaces that we're dealing with. One of the concerns is that the entrance is not secure. The other concern is that the ramp and ADA access is not compliant at this point, so we have to address those two issues. And of course, the entrance is unmonitored, so basically through a camera system, you're accessing the site itself. The main office is remote from the entry, and one of the things that we noticed is that the media center is really inappropriately sized. There are a few other things that could be pointed out. Art, for instance, it has some natural light, but the desirable light is north light, especially for art spaces. So right now, what we have is east light coming in, and then of course the main office is quite remote. So as we look at this, the solution, and this is a site plan, I'm just going to go through this quickly. What you can see now is here's the main entrance, and what we propose is a ramp that's compliant. One comes in, there'll be a vestibule right here. It's a secure vestibule. The main office would be brought to the front of the building, and then as you come down the hallway, art and some of the support spaces are where the media center used to be, and then the media center itself is relocated. There's a plan here that actually better defines the spaces. So once again, you come up a set of stairs to the secure vestibule. The main office is located in a way that you have direct sight lines into the secure vestibule. There is a transaction window that'll be right off the main office. And so when you come into the vestibule, you'll be able to actually show your identification before you proceed any further. Once you come into the office, into the school, you'll come down and the main office entrance is right here, as is the health nurse spaces as well. Principal's office and a secondary office. One still would come down the hallway, and as I mentioned, the media center is right here, where the main office and some of the support offices were. It's appropriately sized, and of course, as you know, media centers are no longer a space with just books. There's other activities that go on in that space, so they would be maker spaces, as conferences, conference rooms and so on. So the design of the media center now will be such that it'll appropriately serve the student body in this particular building. And as you come down further, this is sort of a hub to come into the media center, and then art will be on where the media center used to be. It's also appropriately sized. It's also got north light coming into it. So those are some of the criteria that we used. We're using space, we're working with existing buildings. So by reorganizing these spaces, we're really using the space for the functions that work best in that space. And by that I mean this is a narrow, long space. And so having a media center in there is really not appropriate, especially for the way the space functions itself. However, for an art room and for offices, it's really appropriate. So we've been able to modify that area and organize it in a way that really suits the functions that are in that particular area. I think this is just a repeat of the concept slide, and this ends up with the budget. Do you want me to present the budget itself? Really, when we looked at the space itself, we're looking at a summer project, so this is appropriate for our next summer, 2020. The project cost is estimated $1,769,520. About $93,000 is appropriated from the security project for this year, and we're anticipating somewhere between $450,000 and $500,000 in terms of reimbursement from the state. So our approach would be to file this as a project with the state this June, and have that as if approved, of course, and then have that as reimbursement for this particular project. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So structural architectural is totaling $325,000. The request will complete the exterior painting and wood facade repair at Noah Wallace, and we will begin banking funding for the West District corridor flooring, which will occur in 2020, and a project design for the IAR cafeteria addition, again 2020, and both of these are out-year projects. In MEP, district-wide mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, it's a total of $602,000. On this slide, we provide an overview of the estimated completion dates of these projects. In 1920, we will design the Union elevator replacement, complete the IAR heat AC rooftop unit replacement, design the Noah Wallace Library AC project, design the Westwoods dehumidification project, and we are including funds in this category due to ongoing unanticipated and significant issues we're dealing with the FHS the condition of the FHS facility. There's just ongoing issues that we're facing with unanticipated costs. This is a current photo of the Union elevator and the IAR heat and AC rooftop unit. Code and safety compliance, $90,000. For the 2019-20, this funding includes a Union fire alarm panel upgrade and magnetic timed locks for West District, as per the fire marshal's recommendation. The next few slides include cafeteria equipment and student furniture. Here are some of the examples of cafeteria equipment needs. Obviously, $25,000 is not enough funding for these items. This reflects a banking of funds, so that we do not face a significant replacement that we're not prepared for in the future. FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, classroom furniture, $150,000. This would replace first grade classroom furniture across the school district to reflect a student-centered teaching and learning approach. And here's a photo of aging furniture that we have in our first grade classrooms. The next slides provide some examples of out-year projects, because there is banking that goes on, as Kathy Egan had explained. a limited number of out-year capital items are listed on this slide. We're including these items as examples: vehicles, an IAR cafeteria expansion, telephone system. Again, you really should refer to the 7-year capital document shown on the next slide and in your packets for other out-year projects. So this slide includes the 7-year capital plan. As items are added or taken away given annual capital improvement budgets, this plan changes and we make adjustments. This is not a stagnant document. Instead, it is a living document that evolves and changes due to annual capital improvement budgets that can accelerate our 7-year plan, as it did this year, or postpone the plan depending on what is approved by the Board of Education, Town Council, and the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's any public comment for this public hearing. Please come to the podium and state your name and address. Okay. With that, we will close the public hearing at 6:30. Thank you. Now we will move on to E1.
E1, I move to consider the fiscal year 2019-2020 to 2025-2026 7-year capital improvement plan.
Second.
Thank you.
So,
Start with the Board of Ed.
yep, so if you look on item agenda E, we are very much keeping to schedule perfectly. So the public hearing was supposed to end at 6:30, and it has. So next on the agenda would be the Board of Education. Then we will break for a quick dinner, and then the fire department will be here, the Public Works, Community Rec, Police, and then we'll wrap up with the town manager's office. If you remember, we don't usually take any action on the plan. We just listen to everything, and then because our budget is so early this year, the actual budget is coming out this Friday. So the budget will be coming out this Friday, and just to let the council know, your agenda will be coming out at that time too. It's a week early, but we're going to put them up. We usually put them together. So we've been working on the agenda, so both will come out on Friday, and then we meet again in mid-March for our budget hearings.
Thank you. And at this time, I just want to let everybody know that as we go through each piece, the council will ask questions now of every department and of the Board of Education. And if there are questions that we have further questions, we'll just look to have information brought back to us or given to the council at a later date from the board or the fire or anybody that we have come before us. So, thank you. So, please join us. So what I'd like to do is just begin, if we could just go through this, each piece. If you have anything you'd like to add to begin with, we'll start with, I think, the technology, if that's, and then we'll go through each piece, and the council can ask questions as we go through. Okay? So the technology is our beginning at 500,000. Okay. Council, questions? Yes, go ahead, Edward.
Yep, so for the technology, I know, Matt, you said the server's core is a banking account. Is anything else on this list also a banking account?
The servers, those noted with a footnote of number 2, so the first line servers, K8, and network equipment, are essentially their accounts that we put a little bit of money into each year to cover necessary repairs and maintenance. Network equipment in particular is one that has been building up a little bit in order to leverage E-rate funding. Federal E-rate funding requires that we have existing matching funds ahead of time, and we do get a 40% reimbursement. So this year, and it was a 5-year program, so we had 5 years in which to file for that reimbursement. We did that this year and filed for both wireless access points as well as for network switches. And it's in the process, it's gotten its approval, and it's in the process of being acquired at this point. So those two accounts function similarly. We put money in each year knowing that we have regular replacements that we have to do on an ongoing basis, and also to make sure that we've got it in case of an emergency.
Great, thank you. And can you just refresh my memory of the items that are on this list? Which ones would be continuations of what we had funded last year, but building upon that?
It would be those top 3. The others,
Just the top 3, okay.
Yeah, the other accounts are more like a project. They are continuations of multi-year projects with specific targets in mind. So last year we had an item on there for West District Rewire, and that was accomplished last summer. This year we're looking at both Noah Wallace and Union School, and that's because of some existing work that's been going on. We've got a planned electrical upgrade at Union School this summer, so I'm hoping to do some of that in concert and hopefully capitalize on that efficiency. Noah Wallace is one that may be phased in, so depending on the disruption, because we have so many buildings that will be getting security vestibules this summer, we're trying to manage where folks are for summer programs as well. So I may only do half of Noah Wallace this summer in order to not disrupt those summer programs. And so then, yes, some of the money would roll forward to the following summer to complete that project.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry.
No, no,
Classroom
please.
upgrades is another good one to reference. I came to you guys last year talking about the need at Irving Robbins and at the high school, given that we had kind of pushed off a little bit on some of the upgrades at the high school with the project that was had gone to referendum. We did tackle the 200s and several of the rooms in the 800s this past summer, but we are seeing a dramatic increase in projector failures. So again, the $150,000 in classroom upgrades will be an ongoing item each year as we move through the by the time we get through the high school and the middle school, we'll be circling right back around again to the elementary schools, which we began several years ago.
So does that mean that classroom upgrades on our list,
Yes.
which is district, it says in 150, this year the target is FHS and IAR, or that's what?
This year the target is FHS, again, a small portion. So this year's target is Irving Robbins 8th grade. Last year we did Irving Robbins 7th grade. And last year we did FHS, we did the 200s and several rooms in the 800s. Right now, based on where we're seeing failures, I'm targeting the 600s and the 700s, but that could shift slightly depending on our inventory towards the end of the year of the projectors and where we think they are.
Okay. Where are you at this point? Do you, as far as spending is concerned, is that just?
Most of last year's appropriation has been expended.
Will be, okay.
Yeah, we have, at this point, what's left, we've encumbered at this
Okay.
point, and what's left is the $150,000 sitting there, again, building towards the core server upgrade that Brian and I have been collaborating on planning out for this summer and next year. We've already started to explore both upgrades as well as replacement of the core systems. We're still weighing our options in terms of the technology. There was a shift in the past couple of years in the storage technology. We're still determining what our best course of action is. But both he and I have been building that fund up with an anticipated cost one way or the other.
Okay. Love to hear that you're working together to do all this, because it really is the whole system. It's not the school it's the whole town that really, excuse me, benefits from the working together, and hopefully you can, the town, everything, just, so, that's great. Thank you. Other questions? From technology. Okay. Next, we have the security.
So as I said in the presentation, we work very closely with Farmington Police Department. This year, they actually reorganized so that we have even more oversight from the Farmington Police Department. We really appreciate that. And it's really already enhanced safety and security. Just recently, we had a professional development early release, and the police department presented security professional development to all faculty and staff throughout the school district. So we're just very appreciative of that partnership. And the recommendations we have in this particular capital year would be the upgraded cameras K-12, which will have, when we present our operating budget, you're going to see a savings in there. And for us, that means a lot because that's year-over-year savings that we'll have. And we'll actually have better cameras and better quality security in all of our schools. We'll also install additional bollards, and we have upgraded to a automated system for emergencies, and we also need to upgrade our public address system so that it's compatible. They are very old systems, and so they need upgrading.
And how does this, I guess is the question, or how does it overlap at all with any security that we're doing in the schools? In the other, where we see like West District security or I forget, East Farms security, when we're looking at the big plans, some of it says security, but is this a defined,
So
these are defined pieces separate, or?
Right. This is kind of year-over-year continuous improvement in security. The vestibules are very specific to the entryways. And Tim, do you want to say a little bit about the vestibules? And
Sure. We have designs ready, and we're just about ready to get the go-ahead from the state of Connecticut school construction grant to go ahead with our request for proposal. So that's ready to roll. What we're targeting are 4 schools: Union, West District, of course, East Farms, and IAR and Westwoods. And these security vestibules are designed to create a secure space for visitors to enter. And it allows for a transaction window similar to what Rusty was talking about earlier, but it'll be the same at all schools. There'll be a transaction window from that security vestibule directly into the office in the event that the security monitor isn't at his station, because they have other duties as well. If he is at his station, which would be most of the time, he as well has a transaction window where he can vet someone with a pass-through, things similar to a teller's window, where he could get license or any pertinent information. These are all separate buzzing systems. As you know now, there's just one door that's buzzed near into the school. Mm-hmm. This has a separate layer. It's referred to as a man trap in the PD vernacular. Once that person is vetted, then they pass through to the rest of the school. The glazing and frames are of ballistic quality that is different than what we have now and provides added security.
What do you foresee as reimbursements at this point?
The reimbursements we're a regular 30%. We're at 30% reimbursement on these projects. As far as the actual budget for all the projects, do you have the numbers in front of you?
The bonded funds, the $375,000 is adequate for doing these security vestibules.
Is that inclusive of our reimbursement?
There'll be the reimbursement will come back. The $375,000 is adequate to do the projects. The reimbursement will then come back to the town.
Okay, after the
Yes.
fact. Okay,
Right.
but we're still in for the 30%.
Yes, and Nancy, just that's 30% of eligible items.
Okay.
There's few ineligible items.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which, just so everyone knows, which mean, and you correct me, but it means it's not necessarily the whole 275.
375. Yeah.
Oh,
Correct.
this says 275.
oh, no, 270, this particular item is not the vestibules. This is our
I'm sorry.
ongoing security upgrades.
Okay.
But I will tell you that because we invest in security in Farmington for our schools, we have been successful in 3
Yes.
opportunities that were given to us for these type of projects, so we can submit for reimbursement on these facility projects, the vestibules. We can also submit, when it becomes available, for these grants that become available. The state says, okay, we're going to have another round of grants. We have always applied every single time. We've always been successful every single time. So we're really proud of the fact that, because you have to invest in order to apply, and so we've invested, and so we're able to apply. So we're
Wow.
very, very fortunate that the town council and our board and the police department, we're all working together, and we're able, because we've invested, we also get that reimbursement, which then can accelerate additional security upgrades.
Yeah,
And there's-
great.
To Kathy's point, there's one application that's out there right now. There was a round that was in December. We applied for it with some of the projects that the council funded us on this past year. For instance, the Noah Wallace main office move. That is in an application. We haven't heard yet, but we're attempting to get further security reimbursements from that.
I have to say, that looks amazing, too. The way they
Yes.
did the nurse's office and the office, bringing the office down and redoing the upstairs. I mean, it's great. It's really, the whole thing. I need to go back with the reimbursement. I forgot, and this is to Matt. You said 40% reimbursement. How much of that is, of what we're asking for, gets reimbursed? Because I know not everything is
So
reimbursable.
in terms of what we expended last year, because again, it's retroactive, but we have to have the matching funds up front
Right.
as well. Our federal reimbursement for E-rate is 40%. We sent the school district, the town, we essentially saved almost under $5,000 in those purchases. So we purchased, again, we purchased wireless access points and switches, network switches for all of the schools, and we're able to capitalize on that. And again, the way that they calculate, it's referred to as Category 2, the Category 2 program. They have 2 different E-rate programs. One particularly targets internet service for school districts. If we get that, we've been filing for that every year. That's something that's ongoing. Category 2 was a program that had a lifespan to it, and the hope is that the FCC will revamp it again, but the end date for it is 2020, 2021, and it actually extended for 6 years, but you can only file within that in a 5-year time frame. So ours ends this year, so that's why I've been looking at what our funding looked like, looked at the fact that we had funds to purchase those network switches. We knew we needed to do it. It was something that we saw when we put the phone system in originally, in terms of swapping those switches out. So over time, I was doing it little by little, and we did it again this past year. And when I did run the calculations earlier this week, just to anticipating the questions to what we saved.
Sure.
And we saved about $105,000 this year.
Okay.
So.
Great. Other questions so far?
Yeah, I do,
Bruce, go
Madam
ahead.
Chair.
Sure.
Regarding the security, I know last year, just so I can basically understand, last year 75,000 was requested, and then 275 is being requested this year. Is there anything left over? Because that's so small and it went up so high, and I know that things change. So what was done with the 75,000, because it seems so little compared to what's being requested this year?
So all of it's been expended from last year, and I can give you some examples of what
Sure.
was accomplished. So window film was completed district-wide, badging materials. We replaced, it's an A-phone, is that how it- yeah.
Yes.
A-phone station, automated lockdown system that I mentioned earlier that now we need to upgrade our PA system because of that. Crisis portable phone contract, and we had a server upgrade. So we were able to accomplish a great deal within the 75,000. This is more than we usually ask for, and it is mainly coming from the camera upgrade, because we have many cameras throughout the district. We
Right.
did do a pilot this year because we didn't want to go to a new system without piloting, and we knew that our contract was up for the annual payment that we would make for monitoring the security system that we had. And so we were able to pilot it at Noah Wallace and East Farms, and it was very, very successful and much, much more reasonable when we have to add cameras. And so we're really excited about now doing this district-wide and then not having that annual fee that we used to pay.
Sure.
That was very costly.
Thank you.
What's the breakdown, would you say? Could you give us an estimate of those three items? You said the upgrade in the cameras was most of the 275.
It was roughly 200, I believe it was roughly $200,000 for the cameras themselves, yeah.
Okay, so the other two compromise the 75 that you would normally do. Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yes, CJ?
Reimbursement rates on things like cameras? Do we see anything?
Yes, that goes through
Security
the
grant.
security grant that Vince was talking about earlier.
You know,
Potential
that would-
40%?
Yeah, and it's not exactly the same as like the school construction thing. And the security grants that we've won have been competitive grants. And what I mentioned to Nancy earlier, it's round 4 that we just applied for. And I will apply for every dollar I possibly can apply for. But they're competitive, so I need to say that because, I'm sure there are other districts looking for the dollars right now too, to come back.
But again, many districts can't apply because they haven't
Right,
invested.
right.
So
We've
that
had the
is
investment,
part
so
of it.
we've been able to apply.
Interesting, it almost seems backwards, but
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on this? Okay, East Farms.
So, Rusty did a great job providing an overview of this project. This was a project, at least the office relocation, you did see in last year's capital request. As we started to look at the East Farms project and working with Rusty, it made sense to bundle these two together, and I think you could see how it made sense. It would cost much more to do them separately, and we would be relocating things in a place that would be temporary and then moving the media center later. So we felt that it was important to do this together. If you look at our capital request, it was split between 2019, 2020, and 2020, 2021. And that was really the change from the town manager's review and recommendation to just do this all in 1 year and bond it.
Questions? Go ahead, Paul.
So the 1.7 million, what's the basis for that? Is that like based off of contractor pricing, or is there like a cost per square foot for innovation that was applied, or how did we get to this number?
I think I'd ask if you don't mind.
Yeah, I
Rusty?
figured
Yep.
Rusty could answer
Okay.
that, yeah.
Yep.
Glad you stayed.
I wasn't sure if that.
No, that's great.
No, we did a detailed breakdown.
Okay.
Based on, for instance, at the vestibule, there's an addition. It's a small addition. I didn't mention that in the presentation, but.
Could we
at
put the
East
picture up?
Farms,
Great, thank you.
Yeah, East Farms, the challenge was that the hallway really is very key to the circulation. So any vestibule had to be outside of the hallway. And the only place that, and that in this case is that it has to be in front of the corridor that goes, north, south, and east, west. So that part of it's an addition. So when we looked at it, we based it on an addition for that particular scope. Then we looked at the extent of demolition that had to be occurred. So it's a breakdown that's fairly detailed that we developed in order to put the estimate together.
Okay. And then I think I'm visualizing it correctly, but just to confirm, is the only, and I think you answered it already, but the only addition is the vestibule where there's a new foundation. Everything else is an existing part of the existing footprint that we're reworking. Is that accurate?
So, no, the addition is this section right here. So a little bit of it is the office itself.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we wanted a transaction window that went directly from the vestibule to the office itself. And if we didn't build that out, then there'd be no way to have that
I got you.
transaction window.
Okay.
And the other piece here is that we are reworking this entire ramp and entrance itself. So there's a little bit of site work based on that entrance.
That's all part of.
It's all part of
that,
this,
obviously.
yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions? Yes. Beth?
So just basically, and I was there at the Board of Ed when you presented this too, but just to summarize, this was something that came up when you looked at doing the security vestibule and what the requirements and how that was going to have to work. But then in this space, there were issues, just that kind of thing where you
It
couldn't.
didn't have enough space to actually place a vestibule. It would mean that the kindergartners would have to go through a security vestibule every time they went to gym or art or any program in the school, at cafeteria lunch. And so we did have to build it out so that we maintained that hallway. It's very, very narrow, unlike most of our schools or all of our schools. This is very unusual. And then as we were looking at moving the office would then go into the office would go to the, where it's located, but then we would have to move the art room, and the space just, it didn't work. And we have always had this pretty significant issue. This is the school that has the largest enrollment and the smallest media center. And so we really appreciate this programmatic change in the media center was in our K-8 facility report. It's there. But it was a programmatic change, and we thought this just all made sense to do it together, and it would immediately have an impact, a positive impact, not only on our art program, but also now media centers are really the heart of the school, and you have maker spaces in media centers, and it's so different than what we might have experienced in a library. It becomes really the hub of the school. And so you can just see the dramatic difference that it would make at East Farms to make that change.
Other question, Edward?
Yep. Rusty, I know you had mentioned the existing wheelchair ramp is non-ADA compliant. Is there anything else, because I know we're touching, the rooms where the art class is going to be and the media center. Is there anything else potentially ADA non-compliant about those areas of the school that we have to be mindful of, that we would have to change because we're now undertaking this project, or have we already kind of considered all of those things and it's really just the wheelchair ramp?
Our focus was really on this aspect of the project. We didn't go beyond that to say, are there other areas that need to be made accessible? There are rooms that you have to access through stairs, and so there's multiple levels. And so, I really can't, I would imagine that those spaces are not accessible, and, we'd have to do a thorough study to look at this building as a whole, whether it's ADA compliant. But generally, in a school, you can provide program spaces in a way that if at least one program space is accessible. It's not the ideal way to do it, but you can function in that manner.
Mm-hmm. I guess maybe Kathy or Tim, do you guys know the spaces where the art and the media center is? I know we've talked about before, once you, to give FHS for an example, the auditorium there, if you just replace the chairs there, there's other ADA non-compliance issues that you have to address if you update anything in that space. Is there anything like that here that we're aware of, or no?
Yes, well, in doing the renovation and changing the current art room space to the office, there's non-compliant bathrooms that are in back of that art room now, and they're non-compliant. This would bring these up to compliance by moving them into the health office. Additionally, in the main office area, there's bathrooms as you enter just before you enter the main office area, those bathrooms would be addressed as well. So there are some areas that get addressed just in the nature of doing this renovation. Not purposely for that, but it's just an added bonus that they're being taken care of.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Yeah, sure.
It sounds kind of like No Wallace. You know, when you
That's
when you
right.
did those,
Exactly.
Yep.
those all became, it was wonderful. They're all now ADA compliant in that area. And you've had to redo them when you said you came in where the art room was, and you've reconfigured that. And also the elevator
That's
you've
right.
dealt with in this, correct?
There's actually 5 lifts in this building. They're chair lifts, because this school is in quads, and so
Yes.
there's one going down to the gym, and then there's others for the
In each of them.
for the rest for the quads.
I'd just add that in the Fryer report, the section 6 has all the ADA. We did do a compliance survey as part of the Fryer report, so which is online. And I think, Ed, your question is really good, because there's a lot of, and Nancy, your point about there's a lot of positive byproduct right now. This project is going to all the new area the areas we're addressing. We will take care of any of the ADA things that are in there with the work that's going to be done. But I think what Rusty was outlining, if I heard it, was there are other still at East Farm School on the lower levels. I think there are more ADA things that in the future are going to have to be addressed. Not in those spaces,
Yeah.
but in other spaces of East Farms Elementary School.
Well, and particularly the ones that are going to touch all the children, like the health room. You know, I
Yes.
mean, that's something like you did at No Wallace with the nurse's office.
Definitely,
It's
this
wonderful,
would
you know.
be outstanding, right?
Yeah.
And Nancy, just to be clear, I hope I didn't steer you down the wrong path. The lifts that we have now would not be affected in this renovation.
Okay.
They're standalone and they're operating. Matter of fact,
They're
new.
fine.
They're
They're
new.
just 2 years old.
Great,
So, yep.
thank you.
I think you touched on it, Kathy, but would we, of the 30% reimbursement grant, would that apply to most or all of the 1.7 million, or would we, or it might have been Tim that touched on it,
What's eligible?
in terms of what's eligible?
Yeah, so the advantage of presenting this as a comprehensive project is we can justify why some of these changes need to be made, and then start with the security aspect of it, and then go to the program aspect of it. So as we look at it, we will propose it as a fully eligible project to the State Department of Education.
Okay.
So all 30, it would be 30% of.
That's what we go, similar to the high school project, basically, same process.
So it's 30% of the 1.7.
Seven.
The 1.7, but remember,
Okay.
when you look at a project as a whole, items such as contingencies and certain costs are not eligible
Right.
till expended. And in the end, as long as they're expended in eligible work, they are then considered eligible, and then you get 30% on that. So when I gave a range of 450 to 500, I was intentionally giving you a low range as well as a high, because when we sit down with the State Department of Education and the OSCGR office, we will in some ways negotiate with them
Sure.
as to why we think everything is eligible, and they'll try to poke some holes in there and say, well, why we think something shouldn't be, and then we have to just justify it. So that covers that range. So if everything's eligible, we're closer to 500. If they, usually I use a 95% rule that says 95% going in. That's a safe, conservative number.
And then one more, I think. Kind of following up on the ADA stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, we kind of started as a security project, but when we added out to get the vestibule, and it kind of made sense to tackle a couple other things that we had on the facilities report. Is it fair, is any part of the 1.7 million not part of that facilities Fryer report, or is it fair to say we're essentially tackling 1.7 million of the Fryer report in this project?
Yeah.
So this, in its entirety, so that can all be applied to that K-8 study, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Other question, go ahead, sure.
What's the timing of the project in terms of how long? Because you originally proposed it as over 2 years, so is it still going to take multiple years to construct? What's the timing?
Yeah, I think it would be the summer of 2020. That's when we would start and finish the project by the end of that summer.
Oh, so that,
Yeah.
so the expectation is in that 2 months, you're going to be able to get that done?
Well, if I may,
Okay.
Clarify that a little bit.
Good question, Patty.
one advantage of relocating the media center to the exterior of the building is that might be one of the sections of the building that might take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because we are trying to accomplish a lot during that 2-month window. But the thought process was that work might continue, and I'm not saying definitely, but it might continue into September. But if it does, then any work will be accessible directly from the outside, so there won't be any interference with school functions. We phase it in a way that the administrative offices and nurse and the art, all those spaces are done first. And just so that those have to be complete by the end of the summer, whereas the media center, we have a little bit more latitude in the completion of that work.
And
But we
it's not,
think maybe another couple of weeks or so into the school year.
it's not classroom space, so there is some flexibility, but we would hope for a short time. So that when the students arrive, we could be close to the finish.
And additionally, the demolition and any demolition and abatement would be done in the summer months. So it would just be completion work in September.
Well, I think it's also comforting to the community to hear, that certainly is wonderful. The media center isn't, not that it's not important, but you need the nurse's office and that done.
Yeah.
And if the media center isn't, you can deal with that and still have school, and it's not infringing on the students' day, of learning, for a little bit. So that's great. Bruce, go ahead.
This is great, and I'm happy that you guys collaborated with the town manager and kind of rethought of doing this all at once. So I really appreciate that. So we hear a lot about the K through 8, and I think we, as a community, would like to know how we're making progress on that. So I think as we go through this, because I keep on thinking in my own head, and I think these are great questions, how do we reconcile so we can at least as a council, as a Board of Ed, as a community, we know the progress that we're making, because we're making great strides here. And I think this is something that comes with good planning and good forethoughts and moving things forward. So you may hear it over and over again, but I'm sitting here because I'm a planner. You have that K through 8 report. We're doing a lot of work. Well, what's falling off it, and what can we start really showing our community, as well as us, the town council, so this way we know that we're making great strides to improve the facilities of the schools. And I don't know if you're tracking that today, are you?
Yes.
You are?
Yeah, we track it carefully.
Carefully.
So we absolutely can do that, and I think it's a great idea because I think it is also a celebration of
think
our collective work
Yes.
and our commitment to the citizens, especially our smallest
Correct.
citizens, our children. So I think we do it internally, but it's a great idea to be very transparent and sharing that with the community.
Exactly. So as I start thinking about this, this is what I was probably going to make this suggestion, is that I think we need to do that. And I'm glad that you're thinking that you should as well, because I think that we should really be communicating this and be transparent of all the work that's being moving forward and what has been done so far. So, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Another question I had with the media, when I went on the tour, when we did the Fryer report, I remember it was almost, I hate to say, even a closet area for the computer. It was warm, and it was, I'm assuming that's going to all be reconfigured, and now room in the media center where that little hub was in the library at East Farms, which was the smaller area.
That was actually addressed, 2 summers ago when we did the rewire of East Farms. We moved that equipment that was part of the new data room, and all of that equipment has already been relocated, and that is back to, while it has a few electronic items in it, that room is now an official closet.
Oh, good, good, good. Thank you. And also, to Bruce's point, I think one of the things that is so important, last year, we went out and went to the community for $4 million to start addressing some of these needs, and we did that together. And this year, if we are successful, again, this is only the beginning of our budgeting, but we're looking at always working together and doing this. And that, I think, is if we continue to identify those things and actually look at the Fryer report like that, I think that we see what gets done every year. More gets done and the planning gets easier. We're just on a pattern of what we're doing and how we're giving back to the community what we said, these are the projects. And I think that just builds this confidence that we're working and touching all these places, all the schools, everything, and that's what we're trying. And we need to touch the town buildings as well, but this is all part of what we need to show the community out there by these, so. Okay, any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
In the full table that we have in our binder, I just noticed this is the only line item without a G or a B in terms of if it's bonded or paid in cash. Was that part of a bonding number or?
So are you looking at our document?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, sorry, in the first page of the capital tab?
Oh, C1 at the bottom of
C1,
it?
yeah.
C1. Yes, correct. I don't code. Joe codes that,
Okay.
bonded or cash unless I know what it is.
Gotcha.
Now, with the town manager's recommendation, it would be a B.
So
this was
gotcha.
produced, this
This is
document was produced
before
before
Kathy
it came to
Egan,
Kathy
that sort
Egan.
of thing. I gotcha, okay.
Yep.
Okay. And thank you, Rusty, for staying and answering those questions. Next, the structural architectural, 325. And again, if it's possible, can you just tell us how it breaks down?
Did you have the backup for it? Yeah, the 325. So it's the completing the exterior painting and the wood facade for Noah Wallace. And there are some significant projects that we have coming up. But as far as the facade repair and painting, I have the 24,000, correct? For the wood facade repair, and then there's some painting, 8,000. That needs to get done for Noah Wallace. And then there's the banking for the West District corridor and a project design for the IAR cafeteria addition.
And what are those
So,
amount?
Vince, can you give a
Yeah,
breakdown?
I mean, we've earmarked around $10,000 for the IAR for that initial
The design.
Design, yeah, just earmark right now.
Okay.
And $300,000, as Kathy mentioned, for the West District corridor banking.
300 for banking.
300,000 for banking for the West District corridor project. And then the Noah Wallace facade, second phase of that. We started it this current year, and then we'd be completing it in this upcoming year. Those three projects are what makes up the 325.
Okay. Questions? Yes, CJ.
I'm lost on the math. I heard a 24,000 and 8,000, 24 for painting, 8,000 for wood facade. That would be 32 plus 10 for IAR design is 10 plus 300 is a little more than
But there's
325. So
there's some banking from this year that we have in that account, so I can get that for you. Okay.
Right. So there's funds still in the structural architectural this
From this
current
year.
year.
Okay.
That would be used to complete, and we'll say it's going to be used to complete the Noah Wallace facade painting.
So we're basically putting 15,000 more into the Noah Wallace.
Correct.
Other questions? Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, so in your 5-year plan last year, the original proposal was 420 and it went down to 325. Is that part of the reason why it's less because you had some banking in there?
And structural, architectural?
We had 78, right? Last
The
year.
original proposal?
Yeah,
for,
the original proposal.
The board's original proposal. So in the board's original proposal in structural architectural, you would have found, in out years, you would have found the East Farms office relocation dollars. So that's where I would have started placing those dollars, but then that's kind of changed now.
Okay.
Are you looking at a document that was before
I
we did the bonding
I looked at
documents?
last
Yep.
year's
Yep. Gotcha.
requests,
Sure.
and I was just wondering why it went down, because
Yep.
it was
We had-
proposed.
Yep.
And I was just thinking because it was the banking, but you're saying it's from the East Farms?
That's what we actually received, correct?
In this current
In
year,
the 18-19 year, when all was said and done, at the end of the day, when projects were pulled out because we were able to accelerate with the bonding, we achieved 78,000 in structural architectural, which we have spent, well, we've completed or we're in progress 58,000. And then we have also funding for that next phase of Noah Wallace that will be combined. So,
Okay.
you know, when it was all said and done, it was 78,000.
Got it.
In this one.
Thank you.
Are these reimbursable?
the painting and things like that are not reimbursable. That's like maintenance.
But the architectural and structural fees aren't?
Some of them are, like the East Farms office relocation, which would have been in that bucket, and now is in its own line, then becomes, that's gonna be a reimbursable project. And
So like that would be Rusty's number essentially. That's reimbursable on that line item. That's a reimbursable number. Because so if the project's reimbursable, the design fee's reimbursable, is that how it goes?
Yes, typically, if you go through the RFP process that satisfies the state in choosing an architect, his fees are reimbursable.
Okay.
If a district chooses not to go through that process and just hire an architect outright, it's not reimbursable. It's ineligible.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thanks.
Good questions. Can you just, the 300 that you're banking for the West District corridor flooring, now we know that West District would have a significant, to move that office and the whole, it's entails quite a bit, as some of the other schools were. Is this something, when you talk about banking, that you'll just put it there, and as this process unfolds and you have to move the rooms and, the office somehow, you're doing all that, would this just sit and wait until you're ready, the facility is actually, that's done?
In my and Tim planning about the corridor flooring one, we have the $300,000 in the ask now. Next year, an additional, so in another out year, an additional $50,000. So Tim and I have a number of $350,000. It's just a working number that we have right now for doing corridor flooring over at West District Elementary School. The hope would be we'd receive this in a banking way in this upcoming capital budget. Then we'd get the second part of it the next year, and then we would do that project. And I think, to your point, Nancy, we've got so much work happening at West District this coming summer, we couldn't do the corridor things that we want. We don't want to get involved in doing the corridor things when we're moving the main office, the health room.
Well, I would think that's the last
Yep.
project. You always want to do your floor last.
Right.
Your home
Right.
and everything else.
Yep, and also are thinking about it, we have $350,000. We may still have to come back to the council 3 years from now and adjust and say that the $350,000 did a certain phase of the corridor flooring. But we feel professionally that that is a number that we'd like to use right now for significantly accomplishing it.
Those costs include asbestos abatement in that building. So
So it's not just floor
Yeah,
tiles?
right,
Right,
yeah.
the tile.
Okay. Need I ask anything reimbursable? Any of that?
Boy, I don't
Probably
know
not.
about
I don't
that.
think
It's more
so.
like painting.
Yeah, I'll ask, I will absolutely ask, but I don't believe so. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, MEP, 602,000.
So you see the list of items here, there's a lot going on in this particular category. And, I just open it up to any questions that you have. A lot of this has to do with, some projects getting either designed or completed in 1920, and then the design is happening in 1920 and the replacement is going to be in 2021. So you can see the timeline for each of those examples that we provide.
And can you give us a breakdown again of?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
So first, I'm just going to say that we have a placeholder in that 602,000 of $75,000 for deferred maintenance. It's across the district. However, it's highly likely it's going to be primarily spent up at FHS.
At FHS.
So after the $75,000 for deferred maintenance MEP type work, we have $430,000 in there for the union elevator replacement.
430, I'm sorry.
430.
Okay.
Yep, for the union elevator replacement.
Mhm.
For the Westwoods dehumidification design, we have $27,000. Tim could talk further about that if the council's interested, because this is just the design aspect. Then we have in the next out year, we have dollars in that MEP bucket for banking for that project, to do the project. Then the heat and AC, continued heat and AC work at IAR school, $36,800. And then the Noah Wallace Library, because we are attempting at all of the schools to have an area of refuge that is air conditioned, and the library is a large space. So we have $33,200 for Noah Wallace Library to be have AC put in it. That makes up the 602.
Oh, the last one is the 75,000, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Questions? Go ahead, sure.
So what's going on at Westwoods? I see dehumidification.
Sure. Yeah, I can answer that. At Westwood School, when they design that school, of course, it's totally air conditioned. Problem at Westwood School, and this was meted out through our indoor air quality program that we have in place through the school, and just plain observation. There's real high moisture, which of course can lend itself to a whole host of indoor air quality problems on the lower level of that school. And the reason is that lower level is subterranean. There's a walkout, but it's built into the grade. So in the summer months, that lower level, it maintains a cool temperature very easily. However, like maybe your basements at home, if they're not finished, it's also clammy and damp. The air conditioning system is sensing that those temperatures are satisfied. There's no need to pump new air in there and condition that air, because the temperature is satisfied. Unlike the upstairs where it's hot, you're constantly getting dehumidification through the air handlers. So it's not unusual in modern buildings where they've overlooked this, I think, in the initial design. So what we did is I have a proposal from BVH to do a design on this, and they're familiar with this type of problem. They work on it in the industry. What the design typically addresses is a reheating system. So it's actually adding reheat. It's pumping heat into that lower level at a low volume, which calls for the air circulation to take place and dry out that air. Also, by adding heat, it releases its latent energy, so to speak, and it captures that moisture, puts it back into the air system where it can be dried out and sent back into the space. So you know, right now, we have regular, room air, dehumidifiers all over in these rooms to keep, moisture off the walls, which you can imagine has its own inherent problems, but adding moisture in dark spaces. So it's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
sure.
Yeah. Hi. So I know that we did a lot last year. I think we approved about $677,000 for the MAP. And just help me understand some of the cross-reference here in terms of IAR. It says IAR heat and air conditioning return. I think, and I don't know if this was in 2016 and 17 that was approved, there was about $2 million approved for the heating plant in IAR, and it says it's in progress. How are we on that? Is that done? And is there anything, I'm just curious. And is that different, the plant is different from this heat and AC? That's
Sure.
Right. Yep,
Tim,
no,
do you
no,
mind if I just say one
no,
thing?
no, go
Well, I'm so glad you brought this one up,
Sure.
Bruce, because that part of the project has been completed and was successful. Tim is an expert on this topic. We spent a lot of time this week actually discussing this topic, and he can talk about these other parts of it. But that part of the project has been fully, it's completed. And at the last quarterly meeting with Kathy Eaton, town manager, she inquired about this, and we said to her that it was successful. That part. So, but Tim, on the additional part
Sure.
at IR.
I think just first explain it as one. It's fed by more than one boiler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So the project that you're referring to, that was 1.9 million and change, was to replace the original building heating system, which there was two furnace rooms that had two furnaces each, and they supplied heat, only to the original 1959 section of the school, which is approximately 70% of the school, 75% of the school as it is today. Those furnaces were failing. There was, compromised seams, which can lead to combustion of products going into the air system. So we replaced that with rooftop variable refrigerant flow system, which gave the added bonus of heating and cooling. You've probably seen them advertised on TV now. They're really pushing it in homes where you can heat and cool simultaneously from room to room. Anyway, we added that system for that original part of the building. That left the 1995 edition, which was from the guidance wing around to the front, a new 7th grade wing, the administration offices, and then around to the art and music rooms. Those areas, aside from the administration section, are not air conditioned, and they have equipment from 1996. They're heated by rooftop gas-fired heating units. What we did last year with some of this bucket of money in the MEP was we replaced a rooftop unit that was failing anyway, one of these gas-fired rooftop units, heating only. We replaced it with a heating and DX cooling unit for hardly any additional cost. So that one unit took care of 5 classrooms. So for that $33,000 roughly, we were able to put new equipment in that heat and cool those 5 classrooms. That leaves about 10 classrooms left in the art room and music rooms and a few other areas that need air conditioning. I think we have a part in here for doing another 5 classroom section, because there's, like I said, these rooftop units handle 5 rooms each. So we would take care of one of those, I think, in this proposal.
And is there any more? And the only reason why I'm asking that question, because it just seems like if we're going to do stuff, and I'm not an expert in heating, and is the plan to look at everything, or because this sounds like it's piecemeal?
Yeah. Yep.
And I know how well piecemeal does not work.
Right.
So I'm just curious, was there a plan to look at the whole heating and?
Yes,
you know-
there is, actually. We have planned in 2020 and 21 completing that project, which would then finish the last section of classrooms, the art room and the music rooms over on that wing, which would complete it. I think we have that.
It's 2021, 22.
21, 22,
Right?
excuse me. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I apologize.
Yeah, 2021, 22.
Yep.
Okay.
So we are banking over next year and the year after to do that.
Yep.
Okay. And then I know, again, there's banking going on here, and I know that, Vince, I think you said district-wide, and I think last year we also put some in district-wide as well. So that's just continuing banking to look at all of this stuff.
Yeah, Tim could probably give us many different examples of things that happen around the district. But again, primarily it's the deferred, if you're talking about the deferred maintenance banking aspect of MEP.
Well, I mean, there's mechanical upgrades, and then there's mechanical and electrical. It says district-wide mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Does that fall all under MAP? Because I think it says it represents mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Right.
So there's like two, I'm just trying to understand, is there two separate?
There was bonding. Last year,
Yeah,
it was split
there was
into the
bonding.
bonding. Part of it was bonded, so there were specific projects bonded, and then there
Okay.
was the actual
Yeah.
MEP bucket itself. So there was only 136,000 in last year's MEP bucket, the general one. The rest of it was all bonding items.
It's like the security, I think, if you think about it, there's a year-over-year MEP, and then last year, we actually bonded some of the MEP and brought it out of that year after year, and the security was the same way, so then we bonded, several security projects. So just looking at MEP bonded,
Page 17.
yeah, so it looks, where are we on that?
17.
Yeah, so it was under, I think, yeah, it was part of the security, actually. It was security MEP upgrades, and it was a school bond question. And on the bonded MEP, it was repair West District heating loop, replace Westwood's chiller, design, install upgraded wiring at Union, design, repair, install limestone at Union, update mechanical controls at Westwood, Union, and East Farms. So of the $1,935,000, that included the vestibules and those MEPs. The total we bonded was $1,935,000. We have either completed or we have in progress $1,760,136 at this point.
Okay, good. It's just a little.
Yep.
Trying to get my head
Yes.
around it,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's
Yes.
all different for all of us.
No, you're right.
Again, that's why I'm really stressing this plan, because I think
Yeah.
it would really help,
Yep.
especially me, and I'm sure other council members as well, and as well as our community, to understand what's being done.
Yes.
Again, promoting what we're doing against the Fryer report, or K through 8, which is also known, because I think some of this has been identified through K through 8.
Yes.
Again, showing that we're making progress towards that over and over again, but how do we show that it really makes sense? Because right now, when I first looked at it, until watching some of the videos and hearing some of the commentary that I'm hearing tonight, it was very hard to grasp it all.
Yeah.
So, I think that's it for now, so thank you.
What's going on with the Union School elevator? So I appreciate it needs to be replaced, but what's the,
Oh, we could
Couple.
tell you a story about that elevator.
Couple things. The picture doesn't really show. I should have put a chair there so you could see it's very narrow. It's not compliant. So this would be one of the items ticked off in the K8 report. Also, the motor, it's a single phase motor, which is, you could crawl up the stairs faster than this elevator, it's so slow. But it's funny you mention it, because the electrical upgrade that we're planning on doing there this summer is going to bring in 3-phase power to that school, and it's up is upgrading the amperage from 400 to 800 and three-phase. So we'll have a faster, wider, ADA compliant elevator.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Code and safety compliance, 90.
So in 2019-20, we would be working on the Union Fire Alarm panel upgrade and the West District magnetic timed lock in this particular item. And again, 90,000
And what's the breakdown?
in the breakdown.
For those two,
Yeah.
how much those two
Yeah.
items would cost?
Yes, please.
Tim, that one, the Union Fire Alarm panel, did you have an idea on the,
It was like 18, like 18,000.
okay. And on the West District magnetic time locks, do we have an, this was a recent thing. Mike Galino does his normal visits to the schools with Tim. And that's why in this bucket or banking area, there is a need for flexibility in the code and safety one. So I'm not sure if we have an exact cost on the West District magnetic time locks right now, but we could get that to you.
Yeah, I can put
But that was an item brought to our attention that we're addressing now.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I know that item has always fluctuated from 50,000 to 75 to,
Yes.
depending on the year and
Yep.
what the needs are, but.
Yep. And I know, Tim, you had talked about
There's
there
a-
may be some things at the high school that you have to do
Yeah.
on code and safety.
Well, there's a lot more in this bucket. I mean, this is
Than
one
just
of the-
that, you're
Yeah.
right. These are two examples, but typically code and safety compliance is an ongoing issue that we deal with every year in every school. And so if something is brought to our attention, we do have to deal with it right away. And so I know that, I'm trying to look at if I have any items here. So for instance, last year, we had 75,000 in
Right.
this. And we have approximately 56,000 that would be used to deal with asbestos abatement as issues arise. So that's one issue. And then the FPS tech ed ventilation.
Right. Yeah, the tech ed area at the high school, I had a major upgrade to it, and we're just going to add some components to that to increase the dust removal, especially in the wood shop. But this bucket encompasses anything to do with indoor air quality issues, upgrading fire alarms. I've done sprinkler repairs out of this. We covered digital two-way radios with this for safety and security. Underground storage tank testing. I'm having some tightness testing done now on the few tanks that we have remaining in the district. Fire doors, AED, replacement parts and replacements of AED themselves. So there's a lot, emergency lighting, fire suppression. There's a lot that goes into it, frankly, a lot that we take out of this.
Thank you. Other questions? Sure. Patty.
Tim, it's not really on this, but you just mentioned underground storage tanks. What's the age of the tanks?
Yeah, these, fortunately, these are pretty, they're relatively new. The oldest one we have is Westwood's, so that's what, 2003? 2002 is the oldest tank. We have a 20,000 gallon tank in front of the high school that is probably 10 years old. And behind the 900 wing, that addition was 2005, I think it was completed. So that tank is from 2005. So the life expectancy on this tank is usually 30 years. And we've kept, as you know, we abandoned a lot of tanks throughout the district because they were at their life expectancy. And with gas prices the way they were, there was really no need to go back to burning oil. So we've kept these tanks and we maintain them. And in order to do that, there's all kinds of regulations that we have to follow with the state of Connecticut regarding underground storage tanks, including tightness testing, thank you. Yep. And there's stuff, there's manways that get flooded, and there's things that you have to do to, maintain those tanks.
Okay. Well, based on the age of the tanks, it sounds like the extent of code compliance is really the ongoing monitoring and tightness testing and
Yeah.
routine.
And it's good to know that the 20,000 gallon tank in front of the school also we keep for dual fuel because that's an emergency shelter. So it's not a state requirement, but I think it's a recommendation that you have dual fuel capability where there's an emergency shelter. So that provides us that as well.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, and the cafeteria equipment, $25,000. That's not
This
for
is
the
a
dishwasher.
favorite. This is a favorite for all of us.
Thank goodness. Go ahead. So that's,
I
go
think
ahead.
Tim is desperately hoping to bank some money in this particular account because, as we know, we have aging
Yes.
cafeteria equipment, and sometimes, it comes up, and it would be nice to have the funds available.
And it is the town and board's assets. It's not Chartwell's equipment. This is capital equipment and part of our fixed assets that we have on our inventory.
So right now, this is banking? you said?
Yes.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Furniture, fixtures, equipment, 150.
So we
You
have
mentioned
a-
first grade, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a furniture plan of replacement, and the next grade level that is scheduled for replacement of furniture is the first grade, and it would be approximately $150,000.
How many rooms is that?
How many rooms?
How many classrooms or how many sections?
It wasn't, do you know, Matt?
I'm
When I
Yes,
consulted
I
with
know.
Kim Nguyen, our assistant superintendent, because she's the person who stays very focused on our furniture purchasing, she looked at this compared to what her pricing was for last year's furniture things and said that it would accomplish getting the furniture needed across the district for first grade. So I just have to find out how many classes we
Okay.
have.
It's 15.
Yeah, I would say around
I think
15.
it's around 15.
Classrooms?
Yeah, first grade classroom.
Pardon? First grade?
First grade.
Questions? Okay. That's it. Any comments about out year? You just have in your last transportation, cafeteria.
Are you asking for them for comments or for us?
Well, first I was just going to see if there were any comments, and I guess one of the things I'd ask about is the cafeteria at IAR. If you could speak to that, because that's, we haven't seen that before, particularly here. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
So it's in the Fryer report as an undersized space. There's some similarities when it comes to media centers and cafeterias in Farmington, but just like the high school, it is undersized. It creates an issue for scheduling. So we have not been able to take on a new schedule at IAR, even though on the programmatic side we really should be, and we want to make a change in our schedule so that it would meet the needs of our students. And so we have a whole scheduling committee, but every time we get close to changing the schedule, the cafeteria is a problem, and the number of lunchways we have is a problem. So that does need expansion, and again, it was in the K-8 report. I think, when I was up there doing my presentation, last year's 5-year capital was accelerated. So you are going to expect, when you accelerate our capital plan by doing several bonding projects, and that we then have to make some adjustments, and sometimes projects come in earlier. I think this is an urgent issue for IAR and for the administration over there, because there is a want to change the schedule and create, that space. I think it's a good thing too, because we use that as a shelter, and that's a very small area. If we were to use it as a shelter for serving food, and, if we had a major issue here in Farmington. So that's why that's there. I don't know if you want to say anything else.
I know when Tim and I begin the budget process each year, we go and visit in October, all of the principals, sit down with them just about major projects and about things like this. It is raised every year to us by the head of custodian and by the principal at the school, that this is an issue. Kathy just talked about the program, but they have raised it to us in the simple fact that the space is too small for the number of children, and they can't fit any more chairs in there, so it's a challenge. The second thing I just mentioned is that from a food service perspective, Jose Fontanez, our food service director, has talked with me many times about how he'd like to improve the food service offerings, the number of stations, so they can have more food offerings. He does not have the space to do similar to what the high school does, where they have different stations up there for different food types. He would like to, he wants to broaden the choice and selection for the kids. Does not have the ability to do that in that small confined aisleway where all the kids line up to go into the cafeteria. So I just mentioned those 2 points as well.
Bruce?
I just want to add on, just because I know that we moved a lot of things up last year, and this year the town manager proposed to move something else up as well. So knowing that we had these ad hoc committees, and we the financial ad hoc committee, we had Joe put together kind of like the K-8 report and kind of do our whole bonding and our debt. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because a lot of these things I can understand they could move around, but I think as we're in the midst, and I know we talked about this last year, as we're moving forward to a high school project again, we, or at least myself as a councilman, I want to make sure that we're looking at a plan that reflects close to what we think it's going to be. Understand that there could be some changes. And I think I want us to be cognizant about that, because we're going to be looking at that this year. And, 5 years, the 5-year plan last year, I think what is it, 1.2 million for that renovation in total for the cafeteria?
Estimate.
Maybe that was in year 6 and 7, because we didn't have a 7-year plan. But I think that we just need to be aware of these things, especially as we partner with one another, because if things are going to change, we need to make sure that the council is well aware of it, because we're planning for Farmington's future and improving our capital improvements. So let's make sure that those communications are open, and we're well aware of what potentially could be creeping up and the severity of it.
When you look out at the totals at the bottom each year, we do try to stay in that range that we talked about, and that was a good exercise to go through. So we do try to stay within the range that we discussed in the facility and financial report, or the committee, and how Joe had kind of planned out several years. So when we're planning, we are thinking about that. And I'll always just give some caution, to all of you, because I will say that there are a few things I worry about. And one is always health insurance and self-insurance, and how those things can change dramatically. And, we can do great policy decisions, and we can do everything possible to do preventative care, and, you have catastrophic claims. The other would be special services, because that's very volatile, and depending on the needs of students each year, that can change dramatically, and it has big swings in our budget. And the third is facilities. because I just can't predict. I have colleagues in other districts that would never predict that something happened to a certain building on a certain day, and all of a sudden, they're moving students out of that building into another building. They would never have thought that would happen. And so I always say that this is an area that is always, we adjust as we not only have a plan, but I think Tim did a great job at talking about our commitment to tools for schools, our commitment to working with our police department. One thing that we do is ongoing monitoring and adjusting when needed. So I absolutely agree with you as far as long-term planning. I think we have such a wonderful partnership with our town manager and the Board of Ed and Town Council, and we're always open to discussions, and we're always open to communicating. So I do understand, but it's one of those areas that I could probably never guarantee as superintendent that this would never change, because things change in our facilities, with 4,000 children in them. So.
Yeah, so do we know, and I was looking to see if Joe was here, and he's not right now, and I could ask him when the town goes up. Do we know when he looked at the last Fryer report, and I'm assuming he worked with you, Vince.
Yes.
Was this even in the radar?
Yeah. I was passing it over to Kathy. I want to take it back over here
Sure.
right now. But last year's page C4 in the council's document that I gave to the council, the IAR cafeteria expansion is listed.
Was there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when Joe and I work very closely together, when Joe, on the subcommittee, when Joe was doing the bonding analysis, before he did his big presentation, he contacted me, asked me to do a long lookout. Right. I did a long lookout. I met with Kathy and Tim. We talked about it. We went and had a meeting with Joe and Kathy Egan, and delivered what the best we could, looking way out, on what our needs were. The IAR cafeteria was in that number.
Perfect. That makes me
Yep.
feel much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really
Yep.
does.
Good.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Pam.
Based on the shading on the last page of your presentation, it looks like the projected was for the cafeteria was originally 22, 23, and is now 21, 22. Am I reading that?
And I believe that again, that was we presented it to the board, and the board approved it in a
Okay.
coming to in 2 years, and then the town manager
Based on-
adjusted the East Farms project, put it in 1 year, and the IAR cafeteria,
Okay.
and put it in 1 year. And also, they noted it as bonded projects, suggesting it to the council as bonded projects.
And I have a second, mostly unrelated question. I sit on green efforts, and one of the things we've been talking about is waste management, and part of, I know there have been communications with the principal at Noah Wallace in the cafeterias, so I'm bringing this up with the IAR cafeteria design and whatever that project is, to the extent there are steps that can be taken that are cost effective for waste management and otherwise making things more effective, that would be useful.
Other questions? Could you possibly give us just an update on air conditioning throughout the system? Just go through what, I know some of it we're doing some areas in some schools, but after this year, when we had the heat and the questions about it, could you just what's up now?
Well, let's see, I'm trying to think of how to answer this. Do I start with the hottest areas in the spring? I guess I'll start there. At the high school, it's I know that that's its own standalone project, but in lieu of adding air conditioning, which of course we wouldn't, at a lot of these classrooms there, we're going to be adding some reflective, UV reflective film in some of those hot rooms. But to the actual air conditioning, Union School is a problem with heat, especially on any of the older schools. Noah Wallace and Union on the 3rd floor, really hot. Well, we started phase 1 by the electrical. Right now, we couldn't support air conditioning in Union School, but this
Because of the
electrical
electrical,
upgrade,
right.
correct, will allow us to do that. But Right now at that school, the only air-conditioned space are the nurse's office and the main office.
Okay.
And the art room. Going up the ladder at West District, the teacher's lounge, and the administration area are the only areas air-conditioned.
And the preschool.
The pre-K, yep,
Pre-K.
good point.
Yep.
The pre-K at Union as well. All
Oh.
pre-K areas are air-conditioned, correct. West District, the pre-K areas, special services, and the admin area at West District. This project, of course, will be adding air conditioning through this project here. At East Farms, you have the library and the admin area and the nurse's office are the only air-conditioned spaces.
With this new upgrade, would the media center now be air conditioned?
Yes, it would.
Okay,
Yep.
so all the upgraded areas would have air?
Correct. Right,
Okay.
like for instance, the
The art
art room
room
isn't
now
now
and
it would.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct, yep.
Okay.
Let's see, at Westwoods, of course, that's not an issue, that's all air-conditioned.
Yeah.
At Irving Robbins, as you know, we have all the original building is air-conditioned now, and we're picking away, I think I spoke about this before. 5 of the 7th grade classrooms are air-conditioned. The guidance area is air-conditioned. The admin area and nurses and the library. So
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Just to, I guess, follow up on Nancy's question, is that financial analysis that, Vince, you were talking about with
Yes.
Joe, yourself, the two Kathys, is everything Tim's talking about, is that part of that global analysis district-wide? And I know sometimes you have to upgrade electrical in some schools, like you were just saying, Vince. Is that all part of those numbers, or is this, would that be in addition to that number that we had in the ad hoc committee?
You're asking about the East Farms project?
No,
No.
like district-wide numbers.
District-wide.
So East Farms would be part of it, but all the K through 8s.
We took right from the Fryer
Yeah.
report.
We took the Fryer report and I tried to back out projects. Fryer was like a point in time.
Right.
And then I tried to back out projects that Tim did in that interim period that were from operating or capital projects that were happening, or a big one that was in the Fryer report was lighting. The town finished in the midst of the Fryer report a lot of lighting things, and that was in the Fryer report. So I backed out as much as I could from the $61 million, the big Fryer number.
Yep.
And got to I don't know it off the top of my head right
No,
now,
yeah.
Paul. But got to another number, and then I used that number and I stretched it out over time.
Okay.
So to Kathy's point, if it was in the Fryer report, I put it into the number that I presented to Joe.
But I'm not sure if we could achieve everything in the 20 years. Did we get to the bottom line?
That I'd have to go back
Yeah, I
and
think we
review
went as
that.
far as I think it was a 20-year.
That was a 20-year
lookout, So we
job.
went as far as that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
We
doing it incrementally.
Right.
Yeah, over time.
All right, thanks.
Other questions? Okay, well, I think we have it all answered now. If there's anything else that comes up, we'll let you know, and we appreciate all this information tonight. It's very, very helpful. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And now we'll take a break. Well, now we have the town manager, Kathy Egan, here to present the rest of the capital.
Okay, and I think the first item tonight is fire, and we have Steve Hoffman, our fire director, and I think we have some chiefs in the audience, and we want to introduce the chiefs and wave your, so they can.
Chief Rich Higley, Tungus, Chief Diane Giovanni, Farmington, and Chief Russ Nelson, East Farms.
Hi, welcome.
And I also, the fire department had put together, and this is just for informational purposes, but we thought it would be helpful. It's just a little bit about our volunteer system and just some information. So it's just a basic fact sheet. So I thought, yeah, there you go. And then do that. All right. So we're gonna work off of our chart on the screen, and then you have the full capital plan in your agenda packets. Let's see if I can find the document. This is our document. Okay, so on page C4 is the fire department. And we have two items. We have one in the general fund, which is the turnout gear for $45,000. And Steve, why don't you just tell us quickly what turnout gear is?
It's personal protective equipment that protects the firefighters so we can go into fires, put fires out, fire extrications, and those types of situations.
And this is an account that we fund every year. It's our replacement plan.
Yes.
And how many turnout gears do we buy each year approximately?
15 sets total, and that's 5 set for each department.
And this is, it's just a continually replacement plan?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know if anyone has any questions on the turnout gear?
Any questions?
Great. The next item we have is we're recommending proposed bonding of $1.5 million for the ladder truck, and that is for replacement at Farmington Fire Station. If you remember last year, we pushed that out. It was in last year's bonding, and we pushed it out a year. And Steve, why don't you just talk a little bit about the ladder truck for us?
Sure. It was purchased back in 2001, and we're looking to replace it. We have a 20-year replacement plan on all our apparatus. Right now, this will be coming up on the 20 years. After the budget, between building committee, going out to spec, going out to build, we're looking probably the end of 2020 would actually potentially be built. Obviously, we've seen an increase in maintenance costs over the last 2 years, and also we're seeing an increase in purchase costs for new apparatus. So we're looking to replace that, or start to begin the process to replace that now.
And just remind me, too, the ladder truck, we only have one of those, right?
Correct. It's a single resource apparatus we have in town, so when it's down, we have to rely on mutual aid responses from other districts and other municipalities to respond in Farmington.
And the ladder truck, any kind of thing that goes on that needs a ladder truck, that's the only one, and it goes out of Farmington Fire Station.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So just to, from up here to talk about it, so it's the only ladder truck we have?
Yes.
It's at Farmington? And you have your 20-year
Apparatus
plan?
replacement plan.
Right,
Yes.
right. And also, the thing that you mentioned, I think is really important to note. Tell us again, how long does it take to actually, once, if we were to approve it 1 year now, you don't see it for how long?
1.5 to 2 years by the time you go through the whole process. So
Of
probably by the
bidding?
end of 2020, we might see it, and that's projected. I mean, it depends on how many apparatus are being built that year. Obviously, the committee coming together, demoing, putting specs together, going out to bid, then actual built, and the line at Pierce or whatever, however many apparatus they have to build. So between that whole process could take 1.5, 2 years, depending.
So even though so you got that one in 2001?
Yes.
And 20, so it'll be
20 years old.
beyond 20, 21 years old when we actually would get the new vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
You might have said it. How much did you spend this year in maintenance for it?
In 2017, we spent about $23,000, and in 2018, a little over $20,000. So total for the last 2 years, we're looking at $45,000 about. And that's just on situations that came up for replacement, such as the blown turbo, which we went over last year, issues with the hydraulics. That's not counting the regular 2 times it goes out for inspection. And then if they find things, our firefighters also do weekly inspections on them as well. So if something's noted there, that's a safety concern or mechanical issue, we get that taken care of. So.
And then one more. I remember last year it was out of commission for a certain percentage the prior year. What percentage was it out of, or how many days was out of commission this year?
For all the issues
Yep.
encompassing?
Or ballpark?
60%, 65%?
Of being out of commission?
No.
In commission.
We say 35, 40%? Say 35, 40% out of commission.
I
mean, when it was out of service and we were relying on Plainville or Avon to respond.
30% of the year?
Yes.
35% of the year?
About that.
Okay.
encompassing all the issues at once. There was no single, there was no single issue that put it out for a long time, but
Right.
altogether, I'd say that.
That's net everything.
Yeah, correct, net.
Thank you.
Other questions? Patty?
Steve, I think you mentioned, I think I heard you say that you see the prices are going up on ladder trucks. How quickly?
Well, right
Or
now,
what
with
are
the
you
new
seeing?
engine that we just purchased recently, saw an increase that, we were able to get an option that got us, at a lower price. But as years go on, we're seeing increased price, and that's coming from the manufacturer, and that's what our reps are telling us, that they're gonna see an increased price. Right now, I think this increase was about 3 to 3.5%, and, that can continue to grow too, and that's what they've told us, so.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay.
All right, thank you.
And I just want to say thank you for bringing them up last time and letting us go through them and explaining what it meant, so
Oh, no problem, you're welcome.
that was
Thank
great.
you.
And thank you all for coming and staying and waiting. And thank you for what you do.
Who's next?
Next is Public Works.
Next, we have Public Works and Development.
Yeah, you guys can come on up. You want them at the table? Okay, Scott. Yeah, sure.
Or I can.
Everyone knows Russ Arnold, our Director of Public Works, and Scott Zanke, our Highway Superintendent. All right. So this would be the Engineering Department, which on your sheet would be page C2. And you have a map for the roads, right? Yeah, we'll do the road reconstruction last. We have a nice map that we can talk about that, but we'll start with the general fund. And we have $25,000 in road repairs. I'm sorry, bridge repairs. Funds will be banked and used to complete repairs to bridges. We have a, what is it called, a bridge maintenance document that.
Yes.
And that we are banking money, and we're also doing minor repairs to the bridges. The one bridge that we are banking money to fund is the Trestle Bridge, which is over the rails to trails, correct? That's the one that we anticipate that is gonna be the next large bridge project that we're gonna have to do.
So that's what these are being banked for?
Yes.
The trestle?
Part of it, and part of the other ones, we have a 23 single span under 23. Like River Road has 3 that were installed when we reconstructed River Road. There's a Key Street Bridge, there's 3 bridges on Batterson Park Road that are simple span. They need, minor repairs, some sealing of joints, some guardrail may have been hit, some flow underneath it, maybe scouring out some of the footings, so we'll have to buy riprap, things like that. Minor items, but cost money. The bigger repair is going to be the trestle. It's going to need some structural steel repairs eventually.
But I think that's something good to, that isn't really thought about much, is all the smaller little bridges
They're
that are
thought
out
about
there.
quite frequently.
Yeah, well, that's, so it's good to bring it to our attention.
The next item is $50,000 for STP Urban. This is, if you remember, this is our New Britain Avenue Road project. It's funded 80% by the state of Connecticut, 20% by the town of Farmington, and we pay as we go, and we owe another $50,000 we're gonna have to pay to the state for our portion of it, and then we have money out in the out year, which we're not sure next year if we're gonna need it. It just really depends on what the total price of the bridge project is. And so we pay whatever the total price is, that 10%, that 20%, I'm sorry.
Questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Kathy, I know that, and again, this is an evolving project plan, or budget plan. Last year, we kind of forecasted it was going to be about $100,000, so it went down 50% to $50,000 is it because costs are coming down lower, or we had banking money, or?
We had
what-
bank money and we'd already paid our share of it, and this is to cover any enhancements or additional costs that are unforeseen. That would be our proportion share.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next item is vehicle replacements, and this will be, funds will be used for the replacement of town vehicles in the engineering division per the vehicle replacement program. So this would be fleet vehicles that the building inspector or people like that stay here, and it would be in the engineering department of a town vehicle, one vehicle.
Questions? Go ahead.
Again, I'm
Sure.
I'm a planner,
Yeah,
so
yep.
1 year out, that vehicle replacement wasn't on our list. Was this something that popped up, or what made it jump from 6 years ago to now?
We had a car that came with, that we usually get the hand-me-downs from the police station, and the car that we've had, for safety reasons, was pulled offline. It wasn't a safe vehicle to have on the road again, and the repairs to, get it to where it needs to be, it'll be more than buying a new vehicle.
Sure.
Right, and also, Bruce, we've taken a different philosophy. In the past, we really basically just had hand-me-down cars that would come from the police department and they'd go in the fleet. Only certain cars now are gonna go in the fleet, they're gonna be hand-me-down cars, because what's happening is the police cars are coming to us in such a condition that it's cheaper for us to buy an inexpensive fleet car versus getting an old police car that it's too expensive, it doesn't work well, and so that's why you're going to see some more fleets, because we really have changed our philosophy a little bit about our fleets, our cars, because it just hasn't been efficient, and that the cars are coming to us in such a condition for these guys that it's not good.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Makes sense. If it's not cost effective, there's no point.
Right. And we'll still be putting cars down, some different fleet cars, we'll get to that later, but not the police cars, and so that's what we're doing. The next item is $25,000, and that's for the rails to trails. Believe it or not, a lot of our trails are 20 years old now.
Yeah.
20 years old. And so what this account is basically to start banking money, and if we have some minor issues on the trails, we'd probably use some of the money, but the majority of it is banking it. And what was going to start happening is that we're going to have to start repaving the trails. And so it's like going to be like road reconstruction, it's going to be paved reconstruction. So you can see actually in the out years that the numbers are getting larger for the banking, because again, like roads, the trails, it's expensive to repave the trails. And so that's where we're at, that we have to start a paving program.
How are the, how are the rails and everything? That's been, I've noticed over the last couple of years, you've been able to replace those, which has been wonderful.
We did a lot of
some of
that.
the rotting and.
Pretty much did all of them.
Mhm.
For about 150,000 over the last 3 years, I think. 160, I think, something like that. But yeah, they last about 10 years. And a lot of the problem is they're in the shade. They don't get a lot of sun, so they rot out faster than they would if they were in your own yard. But yeah, we've replaced the majority, if not all of it. We have one more section north of the Big Bird Bridge, Route 4, that we have to do. But we're gonna kind of lump that in when we do. We're gonna patch it and get through until we pave and do it all as one.
One thing that's interesting is that when we did the replacement of all the rails, that when the project first started, everyone wanted a fence or rails in front of their back of their house, and everyone wanted, we had to do it. And now when we replace it, no one wants it.
Really?
So we were able to not do as much, because only sections that were considered like safety issues and things like that. But a lot of people that have wanted to have their railing now don't want to have it, because they're cutting holes in it, or they're, because they're cutting through. And so it's interesting, because we don't have as much railing as that we used to have when we first started, which is nice, so we don't have to replace it as much.
Well, it's actually nice that the feeling is that they feel safe and they're okay. I mean, they're used so much. I mean, people use them all the time, and it's
It's a big
just,
selling point.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just on that topic, as Plainville is going through this process, It's interesting watching people at the beginning of the process who all want a solid wall between them and the trail.
Yeah.
And even when we did our extension to the Plainville border, everyone says the same thing until the trail's there. And it's exactly that. They want to cut through, they want to gate. If there's a solid fence, everybody loves it once they get it there.
Right.
For that section you talk about, that we just did by Meadow Road, or New Britain Avenue.
Yep.
We received 3 calls in the last 6 months, they want gates put in,
So they can do it.
brand new fence.
Right.
Isn't that something?
And also,
Bought it.
yeah, one of the things Rose Economic Development, Rose was telling us is that the businesses down there going to Plainville, they use it as a big selling point because of that, their employees and stuff can go right out onto the trail and stuff, and it's one of the big things that they talk about.
Yep.
So it really does have a lot of economic benefit and good quality of life issue.
If you have a bicycle with you, you can just go right on there and take your bike out on it.
Yeah, right, exactly. The next item is $50,000 for environmental code compliance, and funds will be used to continue our mandated townwide catch basin cleaning program, as well as sampling and other required permit tasks. And maybe, Russ, you can talk a little bit about this one.
As most of you know and have heard me preach, we have to take care of our storm system. It is unfunded mandate that we're required to do from the Connecticut DEP. And this money goes for assistance with we hired a consultant to help us get the updated permit that's due in April. There's a lot of work that went involved to get that to where we need to be up to speed to meet the requirements. It helps pay for our catch basin cleaning that we have to do because we just aren't staffed to do that fully. We clean catch basins when we do our road reconstructions, but we hire through a CROG bid a contractor for $21 a catch basin to clean our basins. So cost effectiveness, we can't do it for that. So that's where the majority of the money goes as far in doing inspections. We're required to inspect all our outfalls and discharges, sample the discharges that are running. Before we only had to sample 6 outfalls, a commercial, industrial, and a residential. Now it's pretty much sampling every discharge that is any outlet that's discharging. So with over 380 outlets, we could have to sample them, run the testing, and do all that on it. It could be quite extensive for cost. So that's where the money's going.
And there's no look ahead toward any funding toward something like this that's an unfunded mandate?
Correct. And the second permit that was issued, prior to its issuance, there were a lot of things that the state wanted the towns to do. And one of the big sticking points was that I had, the bigger one, was they wanted us to sample the Farmington River and the Pequavic River. And if we found a hit, something, some kind of illegal substance or liquid that wasn't in there, they wanted us to chase it back to its origin. Now, just to give you an idea, from the cemetery where the river turns north in Farmington, from there up to the origin, it's about 432 square miles
Wow.
of drainage area. So if I sampled the Farmington River and found something, how do I fund paying for that investigation? Because that's ultimately what they wanted each town to do.
Which, that's no longer on the docket.
It's not on here, so a lot of municipalities had a lot of discussions with DEP and got that removed, along with a handful of other big ticket items. So it's more manageable, but still expensive. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, don't take it that way, it's just a matter of fact. It is what it is, and this is where we are.
Okay. Questions? Patty?
I'm hearing from some other towns that the MS4 permit's becoming more expensive to comply with. And I'm seeing that you're requesting the same amount this year as last year.
Well, we had money left over.
Okay.
We have money
So
in
we
the
had money
account.
in the account that we'd already been funding.
Okay.
So we have, I think it's about 74,000.
I can tell you. I can read
if
it.
Memory serves.
We have $74,000 in the account.
Okay.
That we're going to use with that.
Right, so that's going to get, used. Some of that money's already been used towards the consultant that we hired to help us update the permit. Going forward, it's gonna pay for the sampling and all the analytics that go along with each sample. So I kept the 50,000 in there, good looking out. It very well could go up, not knowing what's gonna happen as the permit evolves. So.
Thanks.
It is what it is.
Right.
Other questions? Okay.
The last item on this year is school parking lot and paving upgrades. And this is our parking lot, school parking lot program. And funds will be banked and used for repaving upgrades programs for the school parking lots, which includes the 4 elementary schools, the upper elementary school, and the middle school. Right now, our thought is that Union School would probably the one that would be done first, but again, that could change. We work with the school system. Various things could happen if, something they want to do another one because of a certain reason or something happens. But right now, I think we're looking that Union School would be the one, and that will take a few years to bank the money.
Correct.
And then that would be the school parking lot that we would do.
Can you just give an idea, ballpark, of what does it cost?
For that parking
Yeah.
lot, you're probably looking at about $500,000,
Oh, wow.
400,000.
Okay.
If you remember, we recently did, when we did the upgrade, we did IAR, right? That was
Yes.
That was $1 million.
That was $1 million,
That was a very large parking lot.
Uh-huh.
but
So, figure about 40% of that is Union School's back parking lot.
And there's no grant funding or anything for that, is there?
Not specific to the parking lots, no.
Okay.
And that is just, would be paving the parking, the blacktop area right behind the school, not the actual teacher and overflow parking.
Oh, that's next to the
By the
air
apartments.
place and the restaurant?
Yeah,
Okay.
by the restaurant and stuff.
Not
that's
that
just- It's just for Union School, it's for right there.
Okay.
Because that other parking lot is in good shape for now, and we have that Charles House project that may come.
Yeah.
So everything's still up in the air there. So,
Okay. So that's probably going to be 2 years banking work, and that's only one school.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm assuming that perhaps some of this is reflected in their K through 8 report, or do we not know that?
Some of it is.
Some of it. So I know I mentioned this to the last group, the Board of Ed, when they were here. So I'm hoping, I know that you guys work together, I'm hoping that this is reflective into their overall report. So this way, as we move forward, we're showing that we're making progress against the K-8 report as well. So
That's what, Bruce, if I may, that's what prompted this to become its own capital item.
Yep.
So I went over the report with Vince and Tim, and that's how we kind of came up with this plan. And something may change, and as time goes on, and the funding may or may not come for other reasons. It may increase, it could decrease, the scope could change. So, but we work hand in hand with Tim and Vince and Kathy, that making sure that we're all on the same page.
Sure.
So we're not planning to do Union School and they're going to come and rip it out and plan something else.
Right.
Yep.
I'm anxious to see that overall thing, because I think that would be good
Yeah.
for us to at least share with the community. So, Madam Chair, I'm done with that one line item, but I do have a question
Okay,
overall.
go ahead.
Okay. Open space management, I noticed last year we had some funds in there, this year we don't. Is this something that was just taken out, or do we have money, or this is something, I'm just curious of why it was taken out?
basically to just try to keep the capital budget at a certain level.
Okay.
It's something that open space management, and we've pushed it off and we've done some different things. It's really, I would say, I feel like it's a big initiative that what we would have to do, and putting just $25,000 in, I'm not sure is totally the right approach for the open space management, because I think we need to really look at all our open space and have a full plan of how we're going to maintain it. We've been just kind of putting that on the back burner because it hasn't been anything that's been too critical. We have
Sure.
done some open space management on some of our properties, Reservoir, I think.
Right, we've done some tree pruning and removals and things like that. If there's a dead tree or something falls onto somebody's adjacent property, we go in and clean it up and take care of it that way.
So basically, open space management, and just correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, and we're reacting to things that perhaps either one, we're aware of it, or because we're not doing necessarily inspections on the open space.
No.
Not full
Full,
inspections.
okay.
You know, if somebody calls with a complaint about a tree, we'll go and take a look at it, and if it needs to be removed or cut down, we'll cut it down and log
Okay.
it and leave it there.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay.
And then we have our road reconstruction. It's a $2 million bond request. And Vic and I have one too. Thank you. So we have a map we're going to give you. And again, we've said this, you guys, because I think we talked about it last year. And we've talked Scott and Russ into, we always try to put the roads on, but there's a lot of variables that can happen, and especially bad winters, the water company, utilities, and sometimes these projects can move out of their place. But we have on the right side of this map, when everyone gets it.
All the same. All the same.
Wait a minute, are they all the same?
All the same.
Oh, okay, then are we good?
I think we all have
Okay.
it. Good.
Thank you.
So, Russ and Scott, you can help me through. The shaded area we'll talk about second, but the shaded area where it says Season 1 and Season 2 is what we're proposing to do with the $2 million. And that will take 2 years to complete, correct?
Correct.
2 years to complete. Now, the rest of the red on the map, correct me if I'm wrong, those are the roads that have been done already. And if you remember, we try to have a philosophy where we are hitting different areas of town to get the roads done. So we try not to do everything in Unionville or everything in Farmington. We try to go on each end of town and split the road budget. So it looks like in Season 1, if we start up here, maybe you
It'll
could
be
tell us.
off Lovely Street. If you remember, last year we put this on hold because the water company came in and did a lot of water main replacement and installation on those streets. So that'll be the first area we hit. Dropping down, we're gonna get Judson Lane at the 5-6 school this year. It's in very poor condition, and one thing, the school has moved their summer program over to Irving Robbins, so that'll help out with traffic issues. Season 1, we're also gonna hit this year, towards the latter part of the year, Hyde Executive Corporate in Johnson, over by Trump, south end of town, on the Plainville line.
Oh, okay, yep.
Jumping to the left middle of the page, we're gonna be looking at next year to do Coppermine Horseshoe in Chapel, from the Britton Avenue up to Red Oak Hill. And then jump over to Farmington Estates, over at Sherrill.
Oh, yeah.
Jeffrey and Ellen and so on, over on the New Britain line. And then we also, there's one missing over on the right, it's not highlighted, season next year, Woodruff Helm, Ridgeview, Blueberry and Shady, over by Wood Pond. It says Season 2 right in top, but it's not highlighted. That's my mistake, and I apologize. And what happens, these total, all these roads here add up to about 1.8.
Town Farm Road.
Oh, Town Farm Road as well, sorry.
That's a big road.
And Devonwood, that's in Season 2.
Oh, that's Season 2?
Correct.
Wow.
I'll redo this and get them back to you. So these will add up to about 1.8 million. So the leftover money would go into the following, into the third year, and that's when we would propose another road bond for that third year.
I saw in our capital, it's every 2 years about you're
Correct.
looking for a $2 million bond.
Yep.
So 2019, which would be, I say this summer, but that's really not the case. It's whenever you can start, is that right? Tell me about that.
Well, if the bond is approved,
At the end of April.
at the end of April, we would start we have catch basin stuff that we gotta replace. It will determine if the bond is approved, and hopefully it is. That'll determine how far we go and where we go.
So-
If it's approved, we'll get right on to these roads
So
and
you'd,
start.
you'd work April to close to
April through, yeah, October, November, before it leaves.
Weather permitting, you'll do it all that time?
Absolutely,
Okay.
And that would be considered season one.
correct.
And then you'd come back again the following April or March, if you could pave then, or no?
Yeah, starting again in April when the
April
plant's
again,
open.
plants open in April, and you'd go to November, October, November again.
In 2020 then?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. And I'm just going to reiterate what you said to begin with when we were all getting these pages, that you have this plan subject to, it could be winter, that takes a toll on some roads that you don't expect, and so sometimes things have to be switched around.
Correct.
But to the best of your judgment, this is what your plan is, unless something occurs that you know, beyond your control, that it will change this.
Absolutely. And we
Yeah.
try to adhere to it as best we
Yeah.
can, because once someone finds out they're on the list, it's hard. And the list is a fluid list that keeps moving, and for that reason in itself.
Right, but, you know, and usually we've been pretty good. The only thing that's happened a few times is that one, if a water company or some kind of utility actually says they're gonna go out on the road, then
Oh, that's another thing.
then we'll bump someone to go out and do it, because we wanna be out there the same time they are, so.
And you don't want to redo a road.
Road,
No,
right.
we're not
And
gonna
pave it,
and
and then
let
have
them
to
come and
dig
cut
it up.
Right.
Correct.
So with that caveat, the Coppermine Road area, Coppermine Chapel and Horseshoe, in the middle left portion of your page, that's dependent upon the water company going this summer on Horseshoe Lane and replacing that water main.
Oh,
We would push that out. They're also doing water main replacement on West District Road. This is Connecticut Water this season. So that'll get redone this season. And then with that road, we were gonna have that road done this year, right? But 2 years ago, the water company said they're coming.
Right,
So
no,
we pushed our paving out.
So that has to be underlined, right?
But no, because that'll be in year 3.
Oh, year 3.
Yeah. And there's another road that we've been holding off, kind of pushing off our list because of utility work, is the Oak Ridge area.
oh,
We were told they weren't doing it, they were done, so we stopped, we started paving, and, oh, wait a minute, we have some interest again, we're gonna go back out to the survey. Well, they survey like molasses, so we're still waiting to hear back for that, so I'm not gonna pave until we're completely clear on that.
okay.
Same with Batterson Park Road over by Batterson Pond. The Britton Water came in and they presented a plan to us that they're gonna be upgrading their water main over there. So that road, that area we've pushed off for paving until they're done with their work. So we work hand in hand. We meet every February, March with the utility company, either by email, phone call, or in face-to-face meeting, to talk about what their plans are, what our plans are, to make sure we're coordinated, so we don't have a snafu where, just as you described me.
Go ahead, Paul.
Is this online anywhere? or
Not
is this-
yet.
Not yet, okay.
It will be.
Okay.
If the
We
bond
usually-
passes.
Yeah, once the bond passes, we put it up.
You put it up then?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Edward?
Yeah, I think I remember from last year, there was discussion about Brickyard Road being kind of on the docket to be paved soon, and I notice it's not highlighted on this worksheet here, so did something change, or
No.
what's the plan for that, I suppose?
It's not on this list because this is our bonding list.
Okay.
Bonding funding.
Yep,
The Brickyard Road is a lot zip funding.
Which is the state.
Through the state.
That's
Through
a state grant.
okay, state grant, got
That's
it.
a state grant
Yep.
project, and that's actually
State
still.
road.
State road, that's still planning on being done, right?
Correct.
What's the timing on that?
We were hoping to get it done this year. We just got some information requests back from DEPs from our submittal from last year, that we just got it back, that we have to hire a botanist to look at a couple of items. So we're pushing to still get it done. And so once it's done, then we'll put, the color will change. So if Brickyard Road gets paved this year, we'll change Brickyard Road and make it red.
Okay,
But this is truly just for for what we pay for as the town.
got it, makes sense, thanks.
Are there any other roads that are CROG related?
right
Not
now?
at this time, no.
Okay.
We've,
Just the brickyard.
I know they pulled back on stuff too.
right, because
So-
the feds pulled back on the DOT, and DOT's pulling back on everything, so. Yeah, no, we've, I think over the last 10 years, we've got about $30 million between, with the plant and our roads.
Mhm.
So they
Okay.
kind of looked at us like, let somebody else have a turn.
Thank you. Bruce?
Yeah, love the map. Just some questions, I guess. On the left-hand side of the document, Season 2, I think it's a Woodruff Road, that section. Do we know how old that section of those roads are?
Sure. Woodruff, their last, from the records that I have, was paved like in the mid-'80s,
80s.
mid to late '80s.
Is that really old? Like, what's our policy?
We try to do every 20 years.
Okay, mid-'80s. And the reason why I bring that up is because people have either emailed me or asked me, like, when is my street going to be done? And of
Right.
course, you know, I understand all the variables. So, okay, so mid-'80s.
And that was done when MDC put a water main in there.
Okay.
That's when it was last repaved. We've done some minor paving. We did a little a shim and like just a shim on it because a section of it fell apart.
Right.
The MDC, we did a pump station. They paved a portion of it and put sewers in on the West Hartford side of it. So it's had some work done to it, but not what it really needs.
Yeah. Okay, you answered both questions. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, next.
The next one we have is Westwood's Golf Course, right? Westwood's Golf Course, Kat? Oh, did I miss one?
Highway and grounds.
Oh, I'm sorry. Highway and Grounds. I jumped right over it. God, I thought we were done. Highway and Grounds. And what page is it on in this?
C3?
C3. This is like things in the wrong spot. So we have 4 items that we're requesting. The first one is $40,000 for irrigation improvements, and funds will be used to continue the irrigation improvements at the schools and athletic fields. This is I think, Scott, these are replacement, correct?
Yeah, this is earmarked for IAR, athletic fields. Several years ago, you funded computer programs for all the fields where we pay for irrigation. This would be an upgraded continuation of that program. The date we've got a computer program that generates the need of that field as far as the moisture. We've got in-ground sensors. So if it doesn't rain tonight, the irrigation sensors say it does not need any moisture, the irrigation does not come out tomorrow, so we're not gonna pay for 35,000 gallons of water to irrigate that field. In turn, it helps with your fertilizing, also drug control. If you're, as we know, with your own home lawns, you get too much moisture, you start getting grubs. So then you get the animals starting to tear up the turf, and it's just one big circle. So this earmark is for $40,000. That originally was put in approximately 88, 89, when that field was redone. We know the main line is anywhere from 2 feet to 6 feet deep, where it should be about 18 inches. It was put in with galvanized steel, which is rusted. Swing joints do not move anymore. It doesn't work like a normal functioning irrigation system. So this is our starting point.
This is your starting point?
Yeah,
Or
you
will
can
this-
see out in 2022-23,
Yes.
we're asking for another 40, so we're gonna keep going around to the schools and upgrading the old systems so where we have the most problems.
It's really our
Does this one
irrigation
take you-
plan.
I'm sorry?
This is really, we have an irrigation plan, and this is the plan, and it's, as you can see, it keeps on going out.
Yep.
I think it's every other year.
But this takes care of IAR though?
It should, yeah.
That's done,
Yeah.
will be updated. Okay, thanks. Other questions? Okay.
Our next item is the dump truck at the highway department, and that is, if you can see, we try to do that once a year. I mean, one truck a year, and that's our big snowplow trucks.
Yeah, this would replace a 1987 Mack with 108,000 miles on it. Basically, we have 14 plow routes, so I like to keep 16 trucks total, 2 spares. So any given snowstorm, we have a truck that goes down. If we can't get it back to the yard, park it on the side of the road in a school parking lot, we take the driver back, put him in a spare vehicle, and we keep going. We have no downtime to try to get the schools open that time and the roads plowed to the expectations. So this would be used for construction, as a construction vehicle during the construction season, and a leaf vehicle with a leaf box on it in the winter time, or the fall, so it's a
Dual purpose.
daily driver, and it's used year round.
Great. Questions? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I noticed in the funded 18-19, we had 210,000, now 190,000. I guess what's the difference between the
It
two
was
years?
the body type that we're waiting for delivery on. The truck was funded last year, had a V-body with a belt in the bottom of it, which we use for our curb machine and backfilling curbs after our paving. This is just a standard dump truck with a sander. It's all-season body, is what we call it. So it's exact same truck, different style body, and we basically just keep one of those in the fleet.
Makes sense, thanks.
The next item is the road maintenance truck in the highway department. This is part of our road maintenance plan. One truck goes in the highway department replacement, and then the next 2 years out, it would be in the parks, is that correct? And this is our crew leader trucks. And Scott, why don't you explain what these trucks do?
Yeah, we're basically buying one type of truck like this every year. This coming year would go on the highway side, the following year would go in the park side. And they're basically replacements of dual wheel pickup trucks with a dump body on them. We've gone to a flatbed with the V10 gas. We've gotten away from the diesels just because we don't go over 40 miles an hour. We never get out of town. So we started having problems with turbos, and they just don't get hot enough to clean themselves out. So we've gone back to gas, which is cheap enough at the pump for us to maintain these vehicles. And we've had good luck with them. This truck would replace a 2003 Ford 550. And again, this is a daily driver used. This would probably go to one of our crew leaders. We take his truck that has the most miles on it and bump it into the fleet. It would be used during construction season, leaf season, as a crew truck.
Questions? Oh, CJ.
Mileage on the 2003?
110,000.
The next item is the superintendent's vehicle, and this will be to replace an existing 2007 Ford Explorer, which is used on a daily basis with Scott.
Yeah, this would replace an Explorer that presently has 108,000 miles on it. And the last time we put it on a rack was frame started to show signs of rot just from the environment we worked in. So it's showing its age.
Questions?
I think basically you just answered my question because it wasn't there last year, so basically.
We had bumped out.
Bump it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Go ahead.
I have other questions.
Sure.
So, and I know we talked about this as a council, there's sidewalk replacements. Last year was in our plan, and I'm assuming I know what the answers of why you took it out, but these are sidewalks that the town own. So it's not there this year. Is it the sidewalks are good conditions, or are we just?
Again, really just about priorities of the equipment, and the sidewalks were not we don't, we have, if there was ever a safety issue on one of our town-owned sidewalks, we would go out there, but we don't have an individual sidewalk that we're looking to replace, right?
No, not specifically at this point.
And do we typically, in terms of sidewalks that the town owns, do we have a policy kind of similar to the road? I know the road is, every 20 years? would the sidewalks be every, I don't know, 30 or 50 years?
Correct.
Okay.
And we go out and things happen, you know, the section will have, something will happen, and we'll go out and we'll have to fix it. A lot of times when we reconstruct a road, we've replaced the sidewalks, like we did in Unionville. We had a grant for the sidewalk that, did the road. On High Street, we replaced the sidewalk because we changed the grades. Colton Street, the same thing, Colton Street. Walnut Farms, we did as part of the paving project.
Sure.
And if there's something specific, like on our near short-range plan is to replace the sidewalk across the front of the high school to Highwood. That's our priority, but we keep watching it and monitoring it because of the high volume it gets.
Sure. Okay. And I just have two more in that section, and again, it's similar, Kathy. There is, we had Tungus Mead improvements for $75,000 last year. That's off the plate, and I'm just going to say both of them because I'm assuming I know what the answers are. And field and playground equipments for $40,000 that was identified last year to come up for this year's.
So we pushed both of those out another year. One of the things, if you look on C3, and it's, it's a policy decision of the council, is that if you look what the departments are asking for in the out years, 780, $1 million, 482, $1.5 million, 650, we've only been funding the highway department in the $400,000 or $300,000 range. So things get pushed out, and then they get onto they reprioritize.
So it's being reprioritized.
Yes.
Okay. But no, I guess I always think about, when I think of Tungus Mead and fields and playgrounds, there's no concerns of safety or?
No.
No, we have those are all inspected, yeah.
Okay.
And any items that come up through their insurance inspection, we address them.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Oh, yeah. Is that? Oh, just so you know, Bruce, just so you know, that the I did make those cuts out of the budget. The Tungus Mead improvements and the sidewalks were requested, and I did cut them out just by reprioritizing, just so you know. That was the cuts I did make.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Questions? Oh, go ahead.
As far as Tungus Mead goes, there's been, I know with the turf field, there was a lot of construction going on, and didn't that include a new playground there?
We already did that.
Yeah.
That was last year, yes, yeah, that's already been done.
Other questions? Okay.
And then the Westwoods Golf Course, right? And that is page, that's page C6. We have two items there. The first one is $55,000 for a sprayer, and this would be, funds will be used to replace an existing 1993 sprayer. And maybe, Scott, you can tell us what a sprayer is?
Now, basically, it looks like a golf cart, about the size of a golf cart with a tank on it, and it's got two folding arms that come out. You can spray about 20 feet wide. It's something aside from the normal fertilizing and pesticide treatments. If the superintendent shows up some morning and sees he's got fungus growing on some of the fairways, he can automatically fill the thing up and he'll take care of that fungus on the spot spray. The existing 93 is going to get traded down to the Parks Department and ultimately get rid of their machine, which is in the worst condition. Again, their machine is used at Tungus Mead, in the fields at the different schools on an as-needed basis.
Questions? Go ahead.
I just want to make sure we have, last year we had building improvements. That's been cut out as well. I just want to highlight it. Was that requested again? And
Let me see where I am here.
building improvements for $40,000.
Yep. Oh, yeah, we pushed that out.
Okay,
Yep, that's out, yeah, that's out. We pushed that out the 2 years.
thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay.
And the next item is $40,000 for irrigation improvements.
Again, this is similar to
Did we
Irving
cut
Robbins.
that or no?
Uh,
No.
We
So they
funded
didn't ask for it this year.
money to upgrade the computer irrigation system. This is now to get a couple of controllers that when the golf course floods, they go underwater. We're gonna elevate those, and then we're on to main lines and irrigation heads, the whole infrastructure. And that is basically for the next 2 years, we're looking at $40,000 per year. You may see some additional cleanup money in 21, 22, but that's yet to be decided.
Questions? Okay.
Planning?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that's on C4, I think. C4.
Yep, C4.
This is the Farmington Center improvements, and this is, funds will be banked for both the implementation of, will be both bank and used for the implementation of the improvements from the anticipated landscape architect plan. Both Nancy and Bruce are on the committee, and we've been updating you that we have a landscape architect now doing a plan for us for our study area. I think I put $100,000 each year in. We have not seen the study yet. I imagine that it's going to be more so than that. It may be something that, you know, we may want to consider, the council may want to consider. Nancy and Bruce, you're both on the committee, so you know that there is a lot of items there. I just tried to put something out there and put it out for different, you know, the years. I also think that this could possibly change, Bruce, that once we get the plan, some of these numbers may be lumped together and say, you know, maybe this year we do 100, and then the next year we know we're gonna do something bigger, so that would turn into a bigger number, but it's really just a placeholder and just trying to plan out that there will be things, but we haven't got the plan yet, so we don't know what the real numbers are yet. So.
Questions? Go ahead,
Madam Chair, if I understand we don't have the plan, what's it contemplating in terms of what types of improvements and?
There's, well, Bruce and Nancy can answer too, but I think that it's talking about doing a lot of different things, like on our, you know, pocket parks, about sidewalks, maybe on Main Street. There's
Signage.
some enhancements of, what you say, Nancy?
Signage.
Signage. Things just to enhance the whole historic part of it. You know, snow, what is it called, when, on the side of the road, just making it more uniform. So it's really, we're gonna be having actually a workshop, a community workshop on the plan, again, coming up in the near future. And it's been getting a lot of really good publicity, I think, from the public in that area, just to really upgrade the whole study area for us. But one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit, and it could be very costly, is sidewalks. And so that's something that the council still has to really talk about it as a whole. But that's one area that is come across loud and clear, that but people want the sidewalks on Main Street to be fixed and updated.
And I think expanded too.
Yeah.
And that
Oh, yeah, and
connectability,
expanded.
I'll just say
Yeah.
that word, connecting from the center all the way to CVS and all, and it appears that people walk in that whole area where you have Highland Park Market and that whole, and there's really no access to some of it. So that's part of this whole big plan. You, Bruce, you can.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add on, which I think, you know, that's why I brought up sidewalks before. Also, the crosswalks,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
the
being
crosswalks,
consistent with crosswalk, just improving safety in that area. You know, it's highly dense. There's, you know, recently there was another accident that happened over there, and it continues to happen. And I think the biggest problem right now is sidewalks in that area. And how is the town going to address that? I mean, those sidewalks are old, roots are growing through it, and I think they're risky for the residents, and it's public safety, especially when you're promoting a dense population for a center or downtown area. I think those are some of the improvements that they're going to be bringing forward, as well as signage so people know where things are from a historic perspective for tours. But I think the biggest driver will probably be the sidewalks and and signage and the crosswalks. But I think that $100,000 is extremely low, but we haven't gotten anything back concrete yet.
Right, and just, Russ, we had priced it out, just so you guys have a ballpark. Again, we're talking a lot about, $2 million worth of roads doesn't get you that much. The sidewalks, I don't think, did we do it with the additional ones to Highland, building new ones?
I think it was about over $1 million.
$1 million. So it's expensive.
significant. The money
Yeah.
is, and that's.
It's expensive. So it's exciting, though. There's a lot of good things, I hope, with the report that comes out, but how we're going to pay for it is, but we did put the placeholders in. And then the other item is the property acquisition, which is in the bonding. And that's for a placeholder at this point in time about purchasing the Parsons property. I think we're going to get into quite a bit of a debate with the state about what they think it's valued at and what we think it's valued at. So more to come with that, but our feeling, I think, as a staff and things, that this is a good number for the value of it. The state probably wants more money than that, but we still have some time to negotiate and do things. And we have to get appraisals and work with our legislative bodies on some of this to work with the state, because it's contaminated and we have to deal with the cleanup. And also there's an easement that goes through it, and the state doesn't seem to be acknowledging that there's an easement that's going through this property that undervalues, makes it the value less. So this $700,000 is a number that we put in, but and as I described, but it's really absolutely a council policy decision about, we recommended taking out of fund balance. But again, that's something the council can talk about during budget time, but how they want to do it. And we'll hopefully by then maybe have a little bit more information too about it, where we stand.
Questions? Go ahead.
So I think I know the answer, just to confirm though. So if we take it from fund balance, when we sell it, it would go back to fund balance as a default?
I think that's if the council chose to do that, right?
It's whatever that
Yeah,
council chooses to do at that
yeah,
time.
right.
If we bond for it or spend for it now, again, that wouldn't just default into going back into the fund balance? When we sold it down the road?
Yeah, the council, if they chose to put it back into the fund balance, that's where you would think it would go. But if the council wanted to use that money for something else, you had the right to do that too. It's really, it's your decision.
When it's sold?
When it's
basically.
sold, yeah.
So, and there's nothing we can do today to affect that? When we purchase it, that would change? What would happen when it sells? That decision would have to be made at that time?
I think, I don't know if you structured something, or you guys, when you bought the property, if you guys did something as a resolution to tie your hands later on, you probably could do something like that if that's what you chose to do.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay.
Unless it was purchased as open space, correct? I mean, then it goes under that,
Right.
that guy's.
Right, then it would be if under open space, but right now, we're not using, we're
No,
not. Yeah,
no, but I'm
that-
just,
Yeah, that would be different.
That's the only way I would think.
Yeah, that would be different. If you bonded it and you had certain, if, let's say we didn't do it as a other, and you decided to do a separate referendum question, and you bonded the property, purchase it that way, you could write a bond, a question that says that the money was going back in, or something along those lines.
I gotcha.
Other questions? Okay.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Russ.
Thank you. Nancy's next.
Okay.
How's our snow budget?
Don't.
Bad.
More coming tomorrow.
Not funded in full.
We're almost through February now, so.
Every day's a game.
That's right.
And I think we have Nancy, right? Hi, Nancy. This would be page
C6.
C6. All right. Everyone knows Nancy Parent. She's our Director of Community Recreation Services, and we have 3 items for her. The first item is Staples House renovations, and that's $25,000 for used to be painting the exterior at the Staples House. That building is a building that does need to be painted quite often. And
The old clapboards.
The old clapboards. It seems like we just painted, but I've lost track of time.
Actually 8 or 9 years. It was
Was
actually
it?
quite a, it feels like it was yesterday,
Yeah.
but it was quite some time.
Okay. So that's the first item. And everyone knows the Staples House is the building here on campus. The next item is Stone House renovations, and funds will be used to continue the renovations on the exterior and interior of the Stone House. And I don't think it was it last year or was it the year before that we funded the study?
The study was last year.
The study was last year. So we did fund a study of the renovations. The Stone House is our old Parks and Recreation building, the beautiful building that's near Westwood's Golf Course. What our thoughts are is that we would be doing the outside, the exterior with this money, and then, as you can see in the out years, it goes out. Doesn't show that we did the thing there.
Are we renting it now?
We funded it in 17.
Excuse me, are we renting it?
Yes, we still
Funded it in
have some
17,
apartments
18.
upstairs.
We do.
It's the year before, it's
Okay.
not last year.
And it wasn't in 18-19, it was in 17-18 that we did the study, on it, just so you know. So we did that's what we've been doing. We've been doing studies on these older buildings and then implementation of the plan. So this study, we have it that at about $700,000 in renovations. We've broken out the renovations, and like we said, we were hoping we're going to hit the outside renovations first. And what is that, the nice,
That's the clapboards on the outside, the repointing, and then the entrance way, which is the cement to make that ADA accessible.
Okay.
and
Any
then
questions?
we do have the people that live in the apartments upstairs still.
Yeah, 3 units.
Okay.
Okay. And then the next item is the youth center renovations, and this is now to do a study, to hire an architect, and then we have in the out years some money, but that may change depending on what it costs, but.
That's based on the facility study right
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Those are truly placeholders for right now.
right. And the youth center renovations, Nancy, remind everyone where that building is.
Now, that building is right next to the Unionville Museum, so that is the old stone church is what people refer to it as. And that houses the teen center downstairs, and then upstairs, karate classes, the smaller dance classes, some support groups. AA meets there and NA meets there several times. So it's quite a busy building, actually. And it is historic as well.
Yes.
Okay.
No way to get any grants for that, possibly? Because it's historic, it just...
For that one, we've tried a few times, and we certainly will continue
Yeah.
to try. We were successful a few years ago for Staples House to get the windows, so there may be something of that nature. But my guess is a lot of the renovations that we're going to be doing are going to make it more usable, so that may not qualify. But I'm always up for looking for good grants.
Whenever I hear historic, I think that you never know. Thank you. Any other question? Go ahead, Paul.
Just curious, what is the line item, senior center capital projects? There's nothing this year, but there's a couple things there. Is that just general?
The 25,000s are just for regular update of carpet painting. We kind of lucked out a few years ago. We had a large flood that we did renovations, but we try to do it every 4 years to do those sort of repairs.
Gotcha.
And then there's also money in there for the facade and gutters as well as a roof replacement too.
That's just banked basically
Yes.
for, okay.
Other questions?
Yeah,
Bruce?
Madam Chair. I see it on the plan, so I think I'm answering my question, but I'd like to just at least highlight them. So we have Dial-A-Ride pushed out to another year. Any impacts to the, like, what was that $42,000
That 42 is to purchase a new van with the grant that we get through Department of Transportation. We pay about $12,000 depending upon the cost of the van. We pay for a portion of the van and they pay a portion of the van. And then further out, for 55, we'll need another one with the double lift. So that's why the difference in price of the two.
Got it.
We are actually currently fundraising as well with First Church to get an additional van.
Great, okay. And then, if I'm reading the lines right, I think it's the senior center exercise equipment. It was pushed out 3 years out. Any concerns about the existing equipment? It's just, how old is the existing?
It's not very old. It's
Not
pretty
very old.
new.
Yeah, that's a whole new program that Nancy and the group have just implemented, so that's really starting, is that more of a replacement?
It's a
plan?
replacement as well as just in some enhancements as well with some of the flooring and things. But we
Okay.
actually have a whole plan for each piece of equipment, when it needs to be replaced, when the blade, all the different pieces and parts to them. And they're all geared specifically for senior and rehab safety too.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
really
then
nice
one
pieces
last
of
thing.
equipment. Yeah, go ahead.
Just because these were planned
Yeah.
1 year out last year, so, and now they're being pushed out by either 3 or 5 years, I just want to make sure. Recreation facility improvements, we originally planned 35,000, now it's being pushed out 3 years out. What improvements was planned for that and what's being pushed out?
One of the things that we've been talking about is our spray park and the recreation facility improvements, right, at the Stone,
Mhm.
at
And
the
that would be
Stone
for
House.
the
And that would be,
client
it would be the doing it together, the spray park and the recreation facilities. And at this point, we've just pushed these things out a little bit further.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Good. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we'll do us, right, Town Hall?
Yeah. Should be here any minute.
Yeah. All right, we'll do town manager's account, and I think Brian, you can come on up. And that is, how are you, Brian? Does everyone knows Brian Rush, our technology director?
Welcome.
Okay. The first item we have is technology improvements, and these funds will be used for technology upgrades, including a human resource software system, server infrastructure replacement, and upgrading Windows servers operating system. So, Brian, why don't you talk a little bit about that for me?
Yeah, one of the things that we've been lacking is human resources software. We don't really have a good way of electronically keeping track of applications and other HR issues. Erica manages that part of the town, and she's felt in the past that we don't really have a really good way to manage that. The next thing is server infrastructure replacement for $100,000. That would be the second part of the banking account to buy hosts for new virtual machines along with the Board of Ed. They've also budgeted $200,000 for that project, for a joint project between the two of us. And the final thing is upgrades for server OS and SQL servers. Right now we're running Windows 2012 on all our servers, and it's about time we upgrade to a new version. So we're going to upgrade to 2019, and our SQL servers that we have here are running a few different versions of SQL Server that need to be upgraded not for compliance, but for compatibility with new versions of software like Munis and our QDS software.
Questions?
It is nice that, I heard when Matt Ross was here too, that Brian and Matt Ross really work together on a lot of the joint projects and with the infrastructure. And like I said, they're banking and we're banking money to do a large project. And so we do work together and share resources, and it works out really well that it's really like, one kind of technology division between the school and with the town.
Yeah, Matt did speak to that too, so that's great.
And that's all the stuff that you highlight that supports the 185,000. in the budget line?
Yeah, those three items. You know, in the future going out, I think, you know, we had been budgeting $100,000 for the last 2 years, because I don't think I didn't realize that we were doing these banking accounts up until that point. So I think from here out, you know, we're looking at $40,000 a year over a 5-year period instead of 2 years of $100,000.
Got it. Okay.
Other questions? Okay.
The next item is the town hall improvements, and funds in this account will, oh, thank you, Brian, sorry.
Thank you, Brian.
Funds in
I'm
this
gonna wait
account.
around for police too,
Yeah.
because they said they might need me.
Yeah. Will be banked to begin a multi-phase plan to improve the security of town hall and used to address interior building improvements and code issues. So this is a banking account and also an account that we do spend money out of for various things. If you saw that, you guys, I think at the last meeting, we did the parking lot, and now we're finishing up that. The next item that really what we're banking money for is really to improve the security of the town hall, correct? Yeah, and that's going to be, we've been working with the Board of Education on that too. We do have a security consultant that is helping us, and it's going to cost some money to get this building up to snuff with some of the security things that we need to have done. And also, Erica, why don't you?
Sure. Yeah, like Kathy said, we're looking to do a lot of, the first phase here is focusing on security. We have some ideas, but we're also looking to that consultant to give us more. Also, some code area, issues. I'm still, I struggle with ADA accessible toilets, just the amount of toilets in this building. These are kind of things that we're looking at. Renovations for, other things like ADA compliance with the railing that we use to go upstairs, things like that. I know that a railing is not going to be terribly expensive, but when you start adding all these things together, they start to really total up. But there's a lot of things we need to do in this building to make it more accessible. We need to, look at things like the ramp, the handicap ramp. We've been piecing together parts of that over the years. Things like that are going to have to be redone coming up.
And now that the parking lot is done and we finished that and have banked the money and the outside of the building, we're happy that now we can really start looking at some of the stuff that has to be done in the inside of the building. So that's going to be the next stage, ADA and security and things like that.
I have some building facade issues like a lot of our buildings. I've got bricks falling off of ledges. There's rust. If you look at the underside of every part of this building, it's rusted out. There's no insulation in any of the wings. We freeze Kathy and Joe out. We freeze the superintendent out because they have no insulation underneath them. There's a lot of things that can be done in this building.
That have been put off because we were doing other things.
Yeah.
So that's the town hall improvement account. The next item is the fire marshal vehicle. The funds will be used to replace the existing fire marshal vehicle. Which, Joe, what is the year on that one?
It's a 2005 Ford Expedition. It's a hand-me-down from the police department. It's got about 140,000 miles on it.
This vehicle desperately needs to be replaced. And that's the fire marshal's vehicle.
So can I just ask you a question? Yeah. So that's showing up under your budget. Would that typically be showing under the fire department's budget?
I'm not, Joe,
really,
why?
It should be in Public Works.
It really should be in the Public Works Department.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's here, to be honest.
Kind of like homeless.
It's an orphan. We adopted it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the proper place would probably be Public Works, but maybe we'll look to move it in there, but it just wound up in my account.
Sure. Okay.
Then $50,000 would be to replace 2 fleet vehicles, and these 2 vehicles, Joe, that are getting replaced would go into the fleet, correct?
Right. What we're going to do is we're going to try to do a modified version of what we were doing before at the police department. We can't rely on their vehicles any longer to go back into our fleet, so we're going to take some of our older vehicles that still have some life in them, and we're going to put them in those departments and put them in as fleet vehicles where they're not going to get constant day-to-day use, so we can probably get another 3 to 4 to 5 years out of them, because we won't get a lot of miles, but we still need them in the fleet for people, for the engineering department, the building inspector, actually even for assessor. We need to go out and do the field inspections. So we'll take some vehicles that, again, the 2010, 2012 vehicles with 70,000, 80,000 miles on them, and instead of having to do everyday use, we'll kind of semi-retire them.
So you extend their use.
Right, extend their use. So it's just, we were doing this with the police vehicles, but the two things happened. One, the police went to the Explorers because the Crown Vics are no longer out there, and the police are running their vehicles longer. So when they hand it down to us, they have 113, 114,000 miles on them, a lot of hard use. And just to convert them over into a normal vehicle and then keep them going, it's just not cost effective.
And they're also the SUV types.
Right, and
that we
also
don't-
the SUVs,
Types.
which we don't always need for a lot of our departments.
Questions?
I guess the same question with the fire marshal vehicle. This fleet vehicle, would that normally be in your town manager's budget?
Yes, this one would be, because one of the vehicles is my vehicle.
Okay.
These are, basically, I guess one vehicle, it's Kathy's vehicle, but these are vehicles that, again, because they're mostly pool vehicles, they'll end up being pool vehicles, we would buy them out of the town manager's category section.
Got it.
And then distribute them out.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So how many fleet vehicles does the town have?
Fleet vehicle, vehicles dedicated to a pool concept, we only have 2. We do have,
Joe, when you say pool, you mean?
They're shared.
they're shared.
Yeah, so they just stay here
Here.
and they're used by whoever needs them on a particular day for
Yeah.
a particular purpose.
We have 10 vehicles, 2 are actual what we call shared vehicles or pool vehicles, and the rest are actually assigned to somebody.
And so the pool vehicles stay here, the others?
Some
Some
go
stay
home,
here.
some don't.
We have
For
a-
example, like there's the building inspector's department, they have assigned vehicles for the building inspector and the deputy, but they do not take them home. They stay here at night. The vehicles that are assigned to like social services, they have a vehicle that's assigned to that department for their staff to use. At night, it stays here. The planning department shares a vehicle with the assessor's office, and that vehicle stays here, does not go home at night.
Other questions? Okay.
And the last item, and this is a new item, is the Unionville Museum Bathroom Addition. And funds would be banked for the town's portion of a joint project with the Unionville Museum for the construction of the bathroom. There's currently no bathroom facility in the museum, and this was a request that has come through from the Unionville Museum, and they would like to do it as a joint project with us, is that they would do a big fundraising effort, and they would contribute to the bathroom, and then we were hoping that we could look for some grants and maybe make it like Unionville Museum, the town, and a grant. And I think the total purchase price, I think, was $75,000. So we put in for did we put in? I thought we did. 25,000, yeah. We put in next year some money too, because we don't know what it's gonna cost and if we're gonna get the grant, but I think that the thought is that if we commit to this 25, then they're going to start their fundraising and go from there. And I've been in the building quite a few times, but I never realized that it didn't have a bathroom in there. So
Yeah.
that's something that they'd like to do. And it is our building.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
I think Kathy may have you said it's a town
It is a town building,
Okay.
yes.
So I was going to ask if there was precedent for it, but
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And so that's that's it,
That's
Fred?
it for
That's
us,
this?
and police is next.
Okay. Oh, good. All right, and then next is police. All right, and we have Paul and Rick Tardif. And Brian.
Oh,
And police are on C5.
welcome.
Chief Paul Melanson, and I don't know if you've met Rick Tardif, but he is our communication person, what is it, communication supervisor?
Yep.
And does all our technology in the police department. So we have 3 items in the police department. The first item is $68,000 for a supervisor's SUV. Funds will be used for a replacement for a marked patrol supervisor vehicle per the vehicle replacement plan. And as you can see on here, basically every other year, that's part of our plan to replace the supervisor's vehicles.
Questions? Okay.
Good. The next item is $75,000, and that's technology improvements, and funds will be used for technology upgrades in the police department, including a server replacement program and Microsoft software upgrades. And Rick or Paul, why don't you just kind of tell us what the funds would be used for?
So this is actually a Brian type thing. So we obviously run servers for all of our applications, our CAD RMS, which is our computer-aided dispatch and records management system, and all the other various operating systems we have. And so the virtual servers we have, this is a replacement plan where we are going to bank money in plans for purchasing that server in another 3 years. So that is the plan for it.
So it's banking, the 75?
But some of it.
Some of it.
So the other portion of it is the same as my operating system upgrade and the SQL Server upgrade.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I think what we have for this, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, is I think $25,000 would be for the software upgrade, and then $50,000 for the server replacement is the banking.
Okay.
And then the next item is $135,000 for the communication upgrade, and these funds will be used to continue the replacement and improving radio site transmitters at the various locations, West Farms Mall and the Burlington Fire Department for the Lake Garda area. And maybe Paul or Rick, if you can explain what radio site transmitters are, and are they actually located at the mall and at the Burlington Fire Department?
Yeah, the main radio site that we have is at Rattlesnake Mountain. We have another site at the police department on the tower in the backyard. We also have trouble with coverage on the west and east side of town, so we have equipment that's very old and outdated in West Farms Mall that we need to replace. We have nothing over on the east side in the Lake Garda area, and the fire department has a lot of trouble transmitting when they're down in that area.
Right.
So,
just a question, just because I was confused myself, is that, like, the tower, it's our equipment that's on their tower, correct? And that's what...
At West Farms Mall.
At Rattlesnake Mountain.
yeah.
Now, at West Farms Mall, is it like on the top of their building too, type of thing?
On the top and inside the building, they allow us to put the
They
equipment
allow,
there.
so they're allowing us to put something, our equipment there, which then helps us, so we have better coverage.
Correct, for
And
our
so the Burlington
public safety
Fire Department, they've allowed us to put it on their
Correct,
building.
we have a good relationship with the town of Burlington because we dispatch their fire department as well, so they're allowing us to put our receiver equipment on their tower, and we can connect to that much cheaper than if we had to buy it ourselves.
It's nice because then, they don't charge us because tower space usually, places have to pay for that. And so, and Rick touched upon it, but it's public safety, so it's police and fire. We dispatch for both. So,
Oh, good.
in Burlington, so.
And is
Questions?
all of the 135 going to be used for replacing and improving those things?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, Madam Chair. The tower that's on the West Farms Mall is, because I know that mall is on a lot of different town property. Is that tower usable for other communities, or is it just strictly our tower?
At West Farms Mall, it's actually just equipment on the roof of the building, a small antenna. We actually are trying to use the tower on Stanley Golf Course. The way it works is that we would communicate from West Farms Mall to Stanley Golf Course to the New Britain Police Department where they have an existing site, and then through the state's fiber network back to our police department. We're also on the fiber network. So it's a little complicated, but that's the best route to get from West Farms Mall to the police department.
It sounds complicated.
Believe it or not.
Very
I
complicated.
hate to even ask.
That's why I brought Rick, because I can give you the data on it.
That's why the proposal is 750 pages thick.
Oh,
to
my
do
goodness.
this work, so.
So basically this tower, is it primarily, or I keep on calling it a tower, but the antenna, it's primarily used for Farmington or other?
No, at West Farms Mall, it's just for Farmington Police
That is our
and
tower.
Fire.
Got it, okay, thank you.
And fire.
And fire,
Yeah,
yep.
Police and Fire, we have one for each.
Questions?
Before we move off, I
Go
do
ahead,
have,
go ahead.
okay. My favorite question, something falling off, the fingerprinting, the automatic fingerprinting that was on there last year for 1 year out, 35,000. So Kathy, I'm assuming, I don't,
What happened with that, the fingerprinting one?
So.
you moved it out 1 year, I believe.
Yeah. So, there's a lawsuit with the state right now. So
last year.
the way fingerprint system works is the whole state utilizes the same fingerprint machines, Cogent, 3M Cogent machines. And the state police, it goes through them and then through the FBI. So it's all electronic scanning now. So we bring a prisoner in, we scan their fingerprints in. Within 10 minutes, we get a response of their criminal record, who they are. And all of that data goes to the state police and then the FBI. The state police is switching their vendor. So they're moving away from Cogent, which means that all of our machines are going to be obsolete when they switch. Now, they told us 2 years ago they were switching to prepare us for it, and they said probably by the end of year they were going to switch. And what ended up occurring is now there's a lawsuit of who owns the data of the fingerprints. So the state right now, it's a big thing, and I did speak to the new commissioner about it, and he said they're trying to make some headway on it. Because there are people like us, we don't want to buy a brand new machine for $35,000, and in a year, it's not going to be any good anymore. So we had 3 machines, we're down to 2, and they are just, the fingerprint scanner went on one, and we're just scrapping parts from other places right now to keep it limping along. But we don't feel that we may end up getting to the point where we need to buy one because we need it, it's required. But anyway, right now, we're trying to hold off to do that, so, and there is no in sight yet.
And that's a good segue, Bruce. I think if I made a list, and I'll have it available in March too, the difference between and I'll just quickly maybe go through it, what I actually cut out of the capital budget I thought would be beneficial. That item, though, I didn't cut out. Paul pushed it out because of what he just described.
Right.
But we did cut out $1,357,000 of projects out. And I'll just give you an idea. And when I say cut it out, it mainly means I've pushed it out.
Pushed it out,
Pushed it
yeah.
out. Pushed it out. So a dial-a-ride vehicle, the spray park, extra money in the Stonehouse account, the recreation facility, that's what we were talking about, the program, the STP urban, they asked for a little bit more, we didn't think you needed it. So again, that wasn't necessarily that we cut it, we just lowered the dollar amount because we didn't do it. There's some issue at the cemetery about some riverbank restabilization, pedestrian sign signals, 3 signals at Route 4. So that was pushed out. Open space management, light pole replacement, which we didn't push out, I don't think, because we just reduced the amount. Rails to trails, we just reduced the amount. Fire utility vehicles for the fire volunteers, we took that out. Tungus Mead improvements, there was a larger number in there. A bucket truck, sidewalks, a wing deck mower, and the Unionville Museum, and then also the land records. And that's the second year in a row we've taken out money on the land records, and that's a popular program that Paula Ray has been doing, and that it's re-indexing the land records to make them online. We've basically have stopped that program, but that's something that we've now taken out 2 years in a row.
How much is that?
That was $30,000.
And prior to the 2 years, we were doing,
I think we were doing
You were updating.
about $25,000 or $30,000 a year. I think we were doing, and that was these funds would have been moved to next fiscal year and would have been covered from 1946 to 1954. So we would have gotten those online. So again, we tried to keep the capital budget about the same number on the town side as what we have, but I think it's just, we'll have this available. We did make significant cuts out of it. And you can see in the out years in all the departments, the requests are much higher than what the number that we've been funding them at. So we've been pushing things out and just moving things around.
Nope, that's good information, but I do, when you talked about the light poles, I just wanted to ask you,
Yep.
does the town own the light poles off of
Now we
the
do.
84?
But no,
No, okay.
no. And we now own the light poles now in
We don't
town.
own
Oh,
That are 10.
The what?
Don't own the poles.
Well, the lights.
Fixtures.
yes, that's
The
it.
light fixture. Just because I've heard a couple complaints on that exit onto Route 4, how dark it is at nighttime over there.
Right.
And, people were just asking,
Yeah.
what's going on with the lights over there since the town owns them, so.
Yeah, we
Well,
don't
wait a
own
minute.
those.
You
So
don't.
there's a difference, though. Did you say that, those were the light poles and lights we don't own, that those are the state?
We don't own the ones on the exit ramps, or the entrance ramps to 84.
Okay.
At
So
all.
that would be the state.
Those are totally the state.
Right, that's totally the state.
Even the fixtures?
Even the fixtures.
Okay.
We, matter of fact, like Route 4, for example, if there's state streetlights, the state owns them, we don't own them.
And
So
Route 10?
4.
In Route 10, right.
10 and 4, the state
Right.
owns it, the town does not.
Right, most of them, right. There's some interspersed in there that we do own. I'm not sure what the rhyme or reason was for it. When we did the survey, the census of all the streetlights, we have a list of what we own, what we don't own, and the location. So we may own some on Route 4, Route 10, but we don't own all of them.
But historically, or it should be, if it's on a state road, we probably don't own it.
Unless, like, it could be a situation where we request.
We have requested it. So like our new lights on Route 4, the
Oh, yes.
enhancement
Yep,
lights,
yep.
those we take.
Those, okay, yeah,
But in
okay.
general, on state roads, unless it's some deal from back then, we don't own them.
Okay,
So that it's the responsibility of the state
State.
to come out and
Yes.
fix them.
Yep.
okay. Thank you for that.
Yep. So,
And,
Other-
and March, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Nancy.
That's okay.
March, you're going to give that list to
yeah,
us?
yeah, I'll
Okay.
have that available.
Well, I think it would be helpful, too. This is on your capital.
Yeah.
I mean, when we go through your budget, the same thing can probably be said.
Right.
Where there are areas that you've
Yeah.
done, switch things around to meet the
Right.
the
And
goal.
usually, again, and I haven't done it in the capital, but I thought it was a good idea to do it this year, though, because we did cut out a considerable amount. And usually, in the operating budget, too, we've cut out a lot on the operating budget. But then also, I'm trying to, which you have said during the targets, that there are certain things for me to come into the target that I'm going to highlight at the end that I think you guys would be interested in, that we did cut out. Because I won't give a list like this, because there's just, too many.
Yeah.
Too many. But we do cut out a large dollar amount.
Well, it's important to know that
Yeah.
it went through a couple of machinations before it came to us.
Right.
So, okay. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And how did we do with our schedule? I
It's
haven't
10
even-
o'clock.
And what time did I say?
10 o'clock. Oh,
guys are-
well, it's 10:03, but.
Pretty good.
10:05. So, that's it for tonight.
That's it.
And I would say that if there are if there's anything else that you think of after we leave tonight, to contact Kathy about any information that you might need more. We'll be going into our full budget next, and we'll be addressing the capital during that time, so,
Good,
okay?
thank you.
All right, so, with no further ado, Bruce?
I motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?